The judge in the case of Donald Trump's eligibility in 2024 happening in Colorado turns out to be a donor to Democrats, and not just to Democrats. Now, I love this. I think it was PBS. There was a news outlet that said that there was concern because she had donated to liberal groups. She donated to a PAC that's specifically trying to remove Republicans who supported Trump on January 6th. And now she is overseeing a case where, because of January 6th, Democrats are arguing Trump is not eligible to be president. So if you thought this one was going to be fair, surprise, surprise. Now we're hearing that Minnesota and Michigan are going to have similar challenges. So that will be particularly interesting. We'll talk about that. Plus, oh, man, you know, I normally at this stage of the game, I don't really care too much to talk about Ron DeSantis, but he did just appear on the Patrick Bet David Valuetainment podcast where he was called out for wearing high heels. We got to talk about this story because this one's, oh, man. I think he's wearing high heels. I really do. And I think this actually, you know, Patrick Bet David absolutely calls him out. And we got a bunch of other stories. The U.S. is building a bigger bomb, a very, very big nuclear weapon, new gravity bomb. And we'll talk about that, as well as Trump's being gagged. And then we're going to talk about this hockey story that's going massively viral that you may have seen, where a hockey player got clipped in the neck by a skate. And it looks like, if you look at the video, that the other player intentionally kicked him, and this dude died apparently like very quickly in the ring. So we'll talk about that. Before we get started, my friends, head over to castbrew.com for the best cup of coffee you've ever had. Go to castbrew.com, sponsoring the show. We've got the limited edition Halloween special, Re-Rise with Roberto Jr., where you can see a chicken foot coming out of the ground like a zombie because we are making fun of our poor dead mascot. Rest in peace, Roberto Jr. But Appalachian Nights is my personal favorite. Dark roast. We got whole bean and ground, and Rise with Roberto Jr. It's our most popular. But don't forget, there's Mr. Boca's Pumpkin Spice Experience. Stand your grounds. And we got K-Cups. If you want to support the show, you can buy Cast Brew coffee or go to timcast.com, click Join Us. Become a member to support us directly. Maybe you don't care for coffee. You say, I like the work you do. I'm going to sign up. If you become a member, you'll get access to our uncensored members-only shows Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m., and you'll get access to our Discord server where you can hang out with like-minded individuals and even submit questions to call into the show and talk to us and our guests. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and a whole lot more, we've got Joey Mannarino.
Hello, how are you?
Who are you? What do you do?
It's great to be here. I do political commentary. I have a podcast where we do that, and that's pretty much what I do. I raise money for campaigns as well.
Right on. Is there a campaign you're working with right now?
The lady right next to us.
Who's this?
It's Lavern Spicer.
And Lavern, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Lavern Spicer, and I'm a candidate for District 24 in Miami.
Right on. Is what do you do in outside of running for office? Are you professionally?
Well, 20 plus years ago, I started a food bank after my mentor died. Started a food bank, and we provide food for people that are facing food insecurity, and we feed thousands of needy families each and every week.
Wow.
We help the mothers that are going through a hard time. We give them baby Pampers, clothing, whatever we need. So we're like a one-stop shop so far as whatever the community needs. We are there to support those that are really having a hard time.
Right on. And we got Phil and Hannah Claire are hanging out.
Hannah Claire?
I don't know where the camera's going.
I'm not sure. Go ahead.
You go first. I missed you, Phil. You're back from California.
Yes, I am Phil Labonte, very failed musician, anti-communist, counter-revolutionary. And Hannah Claire's here.
Okay, and I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for Timcast.com. You should follow at Timcast News on the social medias because it's the best. And Serge is here.
Yes, I am here. Congratulations, guys. We have the cup again, and I just wanted to rub it in New Zealand's face for once. So, yes.
Well, all right. That's very important news. But let's jump to the story from the New York Times. Colorado trial considers whether the 14th Amendment disqualifies Trump. Some constitutional experts argue that a clause in the amendment should bar Donald J. Trump from becoming president again, but that view is far from universal among legal scholars. Now, the big story that they're not getting into in a lot of these articles, one article just said, the judge donated to liberals. Here's the tweet from Mike Davis. He says, new Denver District Judge Sarah Wallace, a Democrat donor, commits reversible error by refusing to recuse from Trump January 6th case after donating to anti-Trump January 6th PAC. So let's just get to the specifics here. On October 15th, 2022, Sarah Wallace donated to the Colorado Turnout Project, a political action committee formed to vote out Republicans who supported Trump on January 6, 2021. And quite literally, yes. Now, specifically in Colorado, but that's what they're saying. They say we formed shortly after Colorado Republicans refused to condemn the political extremists who stormed the Capitol on January 6. In fact, Republican Rep. Lauren Boebert even encouraged the violence. That's not true. She did not encourage violence. It's absurd. But that's what their argument is. And with those lies, the judge in this case has donated to this organization and is now overseeing the question of whether or not Trump should be removed. So, if you thought there was going to be a fair hearing on this one, you were wrong. Now, it may be, for political reasons, the judge can't just say Trump is off the ballot, but Michigan is next. And here's the best part. In Michigan, the challenge is not with Donald Trump. Someone sued the Secretary of State saying that Trump should be removed. And when Trump's lawyers tried to intervene saying like, hey, there's no insurrection here, they said, you have no standing. You are not party to this lawsuit. Now, that's a clever one. Next up is Minnesota. And I'll tell you what I think. I think some point next year, there is a strong probability that one state will unilaterally at the last minute take Trump's name off the ballot. And here's the important thing. I was mentioning this earlier on the Tim Pool Daily Show, my morning podcast. A lot of people are like, yeah, but where are they going to succeed with one of these things, right? Is it going to be a swing state and then like a Democrat district judge says, okay, Trump's off the ballot, but then the state challenges it and it's no. Imagine a state like California takes Trump's name off the ballot and then let's say Trump does win, but he loses the popular vote by 5 to 10 million votes. The Democrats are then going to say, see, look, Trump, how does he win the presidency but lose the popular vote by 10 million? And it's because in states with massive Republican populations like California, but they're so heavily Democrat, they can remove his name from the ballot. Trump doesn't get the general Republican votes in a decent amount. And then it looks like Trump did not actually win the popular vote because they removed him. That's another game they might play, but I'm curious what y'all think.
All you need is one state. If you get one state, you have precedent, and then the other ones can go and follow suit. If they do that, I mean, we're so third world at that point. The fact that this is even being considered, this judge should be thrown off the case. You donate to a PAC that is focused. They're only focused on Boebert in Colorado, but they're actually focused on everybody with the mentality that Trump won the election. Anybody that's MAGA, they want out. Well, she donated money to it. She should be thrown so far off the case.
She says that she doesn't remember. I mean, that's the quote that Colorado Public Radio is running with, that she donated $100 and her justification was, well, I don't remember making that donation and I didn't know what the mission of this organization was.
Well, she's too stupid. She needs to fix it.
It doesn't seem like a great judge, right? This is questionable all around.
I think that's the point, though. Like, the substance of the case doesn't really matter. It's obviously that they're after Trump. They're looking at for any excuse they can come up with. So, I mean, I don't have a whole ton to add just because it's blatant and clear. And the idea that the American public accepts it is probably the thing that I have the most problem with is not just that this is happening. It's that people are so disengaged and uninterested or comfortable with this type of behavior. It means that the fundamental ideals that our country are founded on, people don't have any respect for them at all anymore.
No massive protests out there. No, nothing. Nobody's even talking about it.
I think you have to give credit to Jason Miller, who's with the Trump campaign, who was the one who was like, this is happening. This judge donated to this cause.
Right.
And it's one of the only quotes that I have seen circulated at all. I mean, this detail that she has donated, that she is essentially a biased judge from the beginning, and we know about it, and she was the one to decide, well, I'm not going to recuse myself, is crazy. And I think this is the type of case that they'll just try over and over again until something sticks. And if it's not this, if they run into 14th Amendment arguments, they'll shift to another claim against Trump.
Look, Trump's lawyers argued if they're even going to pursue this argument, Trump has to have been convicted under the federal statute pertaining to rebellion and insurrection, specifically created to deal with the 14th Amendment, and he has not been. They're doing it anyway. And already the judge said, no, it doesn't matter. I
think she should recuse herself from this case. And when it comes to him, it's like justice is blind. They do whatever they want to do. Nobody is protesting. Nobody is fighting against it or anything. It's time for people to stand up and stop being afraid. We got to stick together. We got to fight through this, because if they could do that to him, then which one of us is next?
Oh, worse than that, right? What they can do to Trump, they can do to you tenfold.
They'll just come and shoot us in the head.
The New York Times says Judge Wallace has laid out 9 topics to be addressed at the trial, which is scheduled to last all week. They include whether Section 3 of the 14th Amendment applies to presidents, what engaged and insurrection mean under that section, whether Mr. Trump's actions fit those definitions, and whether the amendment is self-executing. In other words, whether it can be applied without specific action by Congress, identifying whom to apply it to. So the 14th Amendment, Section 3, specifically says representative or member of the Senate. It specifically says elector of the president or vice president. And then it says, and may not hold office, civil or military. And so the argument people are making is that the reason why Section 3 outlines the exact elected positions and then says civil office is because it views a distinction. Civil office meaning a bureaucratic job you're appointed to, whereas the other positions you're elected to. So it would seem their argument is, well, Trump can be president because president isn't specifically addressed here. But that's a tough question because I don't know if civil office. I'm not going to sit here and say the silly argument from the left. They say, a well-regulated militia means government regulation when it's not what regulated meant back then. Back then, regulated meant like well-equipped and properly armed with clean materials. And so perhaps civil office meant something specific back then. It doesn't mean today. I guess we're going to hear. But regardless of this, I think it's absolutely silly to be having the hearing at all.
Yeah.
The fact that when it came to 2020, the majority of the lawsuits coming from Trump were dismissed on standing and not the merits.
Right.
And then you see a case like this where there's literally no merit whatsoever, but they hold it anyway. Come on. The legal system is well, I'll put it this way. I'm not so convinced as to say the legal system is completely broken, but Republicans don't file lawsuits anyway, so we wouldn't know.
No, we just sit back and get destroyed every single time. We're weak and we let them run all over us. You're talking about definitions. They don't care about definitions. They write the rules. They rewrite them if they don't work for them. They don't care. We make the third world look like beautiful right now. What they're doing to us, it's ridiculous. So I don't think we stand a chance against this kind of stuff unless we get smart and get smart quick.
As long as Ronna McDaniel is running the RNC.
She should be fighting this. What's she doing? Getting more Botox or something? I mean, it's a joke.
It is unconscionable that not only is she still in her position, but Donald Trump was talking positively about her just the other day. And I don't know what is wrong with that man to not see that 2 elections were run absolutely horribly. The Democrats absolutely outworked the Republicans. They made the Republicans look like fools, and it was the significant portion of it was ground game. I believe that Donald Trump would have won in 2020 had it not been for the Republicans being so bad at their job, because they let the Democrats change the laws in Pennsylvania.
No, in Pennsylvania they were in on it. In Pennsylvania, the Republicans teamed up with Democrats to change the rules in violation of their own constitution.
Well, and Ron McDaniel knows, and Trump knows this too, that the RNC needs Trump way more.
I don't believe Trump knows things.
I mean, we have to look back at the debate, right? Ron McDaniel puts out this first statement being like, it would be a mistake to miss the debate. This is a bad idea, but they know they need Trump to bring in the viewership. That's how they are going to generate money off of this.
Fundraising.
Right. I mean,
every fundraising email is get your Trump gold card. And then you look at the bottom and it's always the RNC, That money doesn't go to Trump. Mm-hmm. It goes to her and her sick people that run that place.
They know they need him on so many levels. And I wish that Trump would do more to hold him accountable to that.
They need him so much more than
Republicans on the state level need the RNC to be better at organizing. I don't know that Trump's supporters who, would follow him into a burning building necessarily would turn out for every single person he endorses with the same enthusiasm. No. And that's actually what the RNC needs to get serious about, in my opinion. You've been on the campaigns longer than I have. But.
Yeah, it's just a lot of times the RNC just ignores the campaign. You see people, I think you're going to have J.R. Majewski on later this week. He got screwed by these people. I mean, they don't take the time to actually work with the good candidates. They work with the candidates that are going to be amenable to what they need them to do, which is go with the status quo, go along with what gets along, kick back your money to us so that we have our funded operation. It's all a money game and it's all a joke.
It's like the GOP is in competition with the Libertarian Party for the most useless party in America.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous.
And I think there's just a cultural misunderstanding. I think, they are definitely not the counterculture anymore, but for all the years the DNC said, we're the oppressed ones, we're the counterculture, come volunteer with us, be active with us. I mean, it did translate into people who are willing to knock on doors and to be more active on a grassroots level. RNC says grassroots, but I don't think it actually has strong organizations. And I know the argument, rural versus whatever.
No,
but,
I don't think that it's
not
about
true.
that. I think that the temperament of people that are conservative, it's harder to get them to be activist types. I think that you see people that are progressives or that are upset with the status quo. It's far easier to motivate people like that to get out and do things, have a ground game, be activists. The people that are Republicans or conservatives that tend to be kind of activists, they tend to do things with like their church or whatever. Mm-hmm. Whereas the left, it's homeless shelters and food not bombs and that kind of stuff
too.
But
we have risks.
Yeah.
Like you go out and you put yourself out as a conservative. You live in an urban area. She can tell you she gets more death threats than anyone I know. It's ridiculous what we go through. So we can't run around. All of us don't have the bravery to say, yeah, I'm a conservative. Yeah, I'm going to go organize. No, you might get really hurt.
Well, I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
Is that conservatives tend to be cowards.
Yeah.
Well, not this one, because last year, anytime, every day, I'm very vocal, very bold, and I'm out there. And what I saw last year from a lot of candidates that really put their heart out there, the soul, gave it everything they had, ran on that American First platform, we got like no support from the party.
That is unconscionable, and it's not a surprise. You look at people like Scott Pressler, who's probably the most effective conservative activist when it comes to actually getting people to vote and getting people registered. And I can't understand why the RNC and Ronna McDaniels aren't like giving this guy every single bit of help that they could possibly muster for him. He's effective.
I think it's twofold, though. They'd have to admit that they are doing something wrong and they need him, and there's an ego and pride there they don't want to. But also the RNC, has its own behind the scenes politics. I think about when Larry Elder challenged Gavin Newsom in the recall, right? And the RNC, even though he emerged as the leader, the RNC did not give him the support they should have, right? And theoretically, that is one of the most important and I think under talked about political battles that we had in recent history. And the RNC did not even give him the fighting support that he needed, in my opinion. There is a disconnect between what the voters want and what the administrative side of that wants. I mean, it is sad, but to your point, they ultimately know where the money is. They know where the support is. That's why they invoke Trump's name when it's convenient to them.
And they like to be in the opposition because you raise more money if you can send an email that says, we're being screwed, they're going to kill us all, we're destroyed, Biden's ruining us, than if you talk about results. And it's sad, but it's true.
It's infuriating because that ineffectiveness and that desire to be the underdog is part of the reason why the whole of the culture is so run by the left. And it translates to all the anti-Semitism and stuff that's going on in college campuses now. If the Republicans gave people something to aspire to, the Republican Party, if they gave people something to aspire to, you wouldn't have the left dominating everywhere in our society. And the left does dominate every institution in our society right now. And it's starting to have real world consequences. And you're seeing it in the, case in point, all the anti-Semitism and all the people that hate the Jews and stuff that you see in college campuses.
Lavern, I'm curious what your experience is as a conservative. Were you always a Republican? How did you get to where you are?
Well, like I said, with the food bank, I always had to be vocal, get out there, rub elbows with the politicians. So what caught my attention, and I'm going to say it again, I always say it, so far as myself and so many other black conservatives, was that when Trump said in 2020, why don't y'all run and take back your community because they're not helping you anyway. Yeah. So that's what caught my attention, and that's when I decided to change and become a conservative.
And did your community react positively, negatively? Did other black conservatives decide they would support you?
Well, I didn't really care if they supported me or not. I don't give a damn about that. But so what really, I think that so far as my community, they don't give a damn because they know when they need the help, they can come to me. I'm in the streets. I'm with the homeless. I'm with anybody that's hurting and need help. I'm there. But the community supported me, but it was just, you know, with the Twitter page, people started coming after me, calling me all kind of derogatory names. And, you know, the coons, and everything else that come along with that. And, you know, I guess most of them didn't know exactly who they was talking to, but they quickly found out.
I like that response. I think that's really funny.
Because I think they thought I was going to be afraid, you know, because they called me all the ugly names that would run me away from the party. So, no.
Let's jump to the story from Newsweek, and we'll get silly. I saw this earlier today. Patrick Bet-David was interviewing Ron DeSantis, and I was really surprised. I'm consistently impressed with Patrick Bet-David's ability to get some of these personalities on his show. He had Anthony Weiner. Now he's got Ron DeSantis. You know, we've got two people who do booking for Timcast, and these people are terrified. But I don't even think I go as hard as Patrick Bet-David does, but people really want to be on his show. So we got to learn lessons from PBD. He knows how to handle this. Take a look at this story from Newsweek. Ron DeSantis addresses rumors that he wears lifts in his boots. Okay, let me just play the clip from the show. Dude, I got to play it. It's a minute long. Here we go.
I'm sure your marketing team points out how they're trying to troll you in the marketplace. Okay, I'm sure they're doing that. Can you bring this one clip? I know you were on, what do you call it? On, what was it? Bill Maher, and Bill Maher talked about the boots. I've seen you walk with these boots. Go ahead and play this clip. This on TikTok went viral. It doesn't have 1 million views. It doesn't have, 10 million views. This thing's got 1.2 million likes. And some people are wondering,
what are they? I don't even. I haven't seen that.
They've not shown this to you. Okay,
No.
What they're trying to say with this is that in your boots you have heels.
No.
That's what they're trying to say.
Those are just standard off the rack Lucchese.
How tall are you? How tall are you, Governor? How tall?
5'11".
5'11". Okay. Why don't you wear tennis shoes and dress shoes?
I do wear tennis shoes when I work out. Yeah, 100%.
You do?
Yep.
Okay. I got a gift for you. I'd love for you to wear, okay, I shop at Ferragamo, okay? And
I don't accept gifts. I can't accept it.
I totally get it.
I'm sorry.
Oh, man. His immediate reaction, 5'11". I'm sorry. I think Ron DeSantis wear high heels. And I just want to shout out, I think Ashley St. Clair may have just driven the final nail into the DeSantis campaign coffin.
Yeah, he's not going to recover from this. And I'm not being sarcastic or hyperbolic at all. He is not going to be the president. And this is like his, I think the guy's
Howard
name was.
Dean?
Yeah, the Dean moment. Because, I mean, the honesty, like the truth is, if you're like below 6 foot, you're not going to be the president. People talk about, half the presidents have been, under 6 foot and half of them were over. But how many since the advent of television have been under 6 foot?
I still think 5'11" is the height men give when they know they're not 6 feet or nodding at me. When you know they're not 6 feet, but they can't officially, they want to pretend they're a little bit taller. So it's like, I'm 5'11", no, they're actually like 5'8", and no, that's not bad. I wish he would just own it, right?
Well, no, I mean he could own it, but he's not.
But he's not going.
Yeah,
and also,
he's never going to be the president
now,
if you're not tall.
Can you imagine? He went from being the governor that was the face of freedom, the governor that was basically next up in line. If he would have waited till 2028, he would have probably been the Republican nominee. And now instead, we're sitting around here talking about, does he wear high heels? His best hope is to get an Instagram sponsorship with a heel company. This is what happens.
I don't know that I believe. I don't know that I believe that he ever would be able to be the president just because of his height. I strongly believe that if you're not,
Phil, we're in a
what's gonna happen
progressive,
is,
accepting society.
No, because that doesn't count.
Short King
That doesn't count.
movies.
Stop. That doesn't count for men. That is not the truth for men at all.
But without Trump in the race, would we even be talking about it? Trump is the one who put his people on this. This is a Trump that we nobody cared about these things necessarily.
It doesn't. He would get on stage and be next to someone taller, and that's all it would take.
Okay.
Because I honestly don't believe that there is a situation where people are going to look at dudes on stage behind a podium, and if one is significantly taller than another, they're not going to vote for the short guy. They're just not going to do it.
We believe in you guys. Come on.
I pulled up a bunch of photos just looking at my phone of from way before DeSantis was running for president. And I just looked up photos of Trump with DeSantis, and he looks like he's probably 5'11". Unless
That's
he's
a
been
fake
wearing,
height. No men are 5'11". They're just pretending to be 6
then
feet.
5'10".
No,
Unless
just
he's
kidding.
been wearing high heels the whole time, which is possible, and then just no one noticed until now.
I imagine that he probably did.
He probably wore him as soon as it's probably been for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as he started dating. Maybe.
I mean, if he's wearing them now, it's something that he's been concerned with.
We need
obviously.
to get a picture from when he got married, because he got married in his dress uniform, which might be harder to hide lifts in, and then we can do a comparison to the objects around them. That's my new theory.
like
on this.
that photo's amazing. He's floating into the sky.
This is what a lot of people said about this picture right here, that his, like they think he's wearing these fake shoes. Otherwise, he's got really long
Is it
legs.
He's
fibula?
halfway to heaven.
Fibula?
Well, the one that's like, there's no way any human has this length of bone except for Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, someone said DeSantis' heel lifts are so high, it looks like he's being photographed mid-rapture.
I just think if he had
Unless it's
responded,
Photoshop, I don't know.
I just wish he had responded to this more positively, embraced it with humor, because it would have been a different, I don't know that it would have changed his campaign completely, but it would have given him the personality that right now people critique him for not having, right?
Humorless. He's lifeless. That's
And
the problem.
This was
with
this
him.
perfect moment to do something, and I'm just sad they didn't embrace it, right? I'm not trying to make him feel bad about his height, you know. He can be any height he wants to be, apparently, but it doesn't have to be like this. And they made it this weird sticking point that now people are always going to try and bring up.
I mean, I still strongly feel like
Phil will only have a tall president, I guess.
It's about the way that people unconsciously react. It's not something that people are going to be able to identify on their own. They're going to say, they'll just be like, I don't know, the other guy just looks more
Yeah.
presidential. It'll be, he's more commanding. I trust him. And
It's
that is
a deep part of human psychology.
it is all about charisma. And when it comes to men, taller men are looked at as an authority.
Mm-hmm.
That is just the way people react. That is not anything, no one thinks about it at all. It's attractive privilege. It's a 100% attractive privilege. And that's the way that it pans out for men.
And-
with women, if you're a large woman, you're not as attractive as smaller, petite women. That's just reality. I'm not trying
I think
to.
it's even beyond attractiveness. I think, some of the
Charisma.
stuff that we look for to indicate health, well-being, that are deep in our psychology, that, they're young and vibrant. Height is one of them. I mean, even babies tiny newborn babies prefer symmetrical faces.
Yep.
There is something deep in our minds that looks to seek for indicators of health or strength or whatever it is. I just think, maybe he could never have been president, but I just think the way his team handled this was
How tall is the
a bigger issue.
demented guy in the office right now, Mr. Biden? How tall
Biden's
is
6
he?
foot.
He's 6
foot.
feet. Wow. Okay.
Imagine if Ron just said, well, I can't accept the gift, but I can try him on.
Yeah.
And then stood up and put him on.
You
There's
got to
a-
get out of the lifts. They're probably tough to get out of, though.
well, then you would see it.
Because the thing about it is that this image right here, man, it's like the third time we've talked about this.
it's so
The front
funny.
of his foot looks like it's smashed up against the boot, like it's really tight on his foot.
There's a clip from an old late night show when Jake Gyllenhaal, people are like, how tall is he? And so he just takes off his shoes and they measure him on the set of whatever generic late night show it is. And he comes up less than 6 foot, maybe 5'11", maybe 5'10", and he just sort of nods along and laughs with it. And then that question just dies away. No one asks that anymore. And I think making this into sort of an internet meme is way worse.
It's terrible. It just makes him look like a joke. It makes him look insecure. I mean,
But outside of this, Patrick Bet David asking him the question was a tremendous opportunity to end it, and he doesn't have the charisma to do that. His response is, well, first of all, the fact that he's never seen it,
But that's a lie.
he's seen it.
He's seen
probably
it.
cries himself to sleep watching it.
but that's just the thing. He should have been like, oh, I've seen this clip. Yeah, that's a good one. It's not real. But instead, he's like, "What? I've never seen this." It's like, "You've never seen it?" No. Then you got a terrible PR team that's not actually. I wonder if it's true. He really has never seen it.
Which would make it seem like his PR team is like, he's so insecure about his height, we have to hide it from him.
No,
But
they just-
that's not great either.
He hired the worst possible people in communications imaginable, who took the front runner to the bottom.
Yeah.
If you're the president, if you're running for the office of president and you don't think that image is important, you're gonna lose. Period.
Yeah.
You have to understand that that most people make their decision about you with their gut. They don't think about it. They rationalize their emotional reaction after the fact. That's just the way human beings work. If you don't portray yourself in a charismatic way, The reason people love Trump is because he's charismatic in a way that's attractive to them. And that's also the thing that some people find repulsive. Nobody likes Trump because of his policies, because Trump doesn't have any policies. The policies are going to change depending on the last person he spoke to. No one.
Well, hold on.
That's true.
No. His policies change depending on what Tucker Carlson said that night.
Fair enough. Okay, depending on what Tucker Carlson.
But to be fair, there's that Tucker Carlson anchor on Trump. You know what I mean?
I think that Tucker Carlson puts thought into into the policies that he would or would not back. I don't think Trump does. I think Trump is just driven by his gut.
See, but we can forgive stuff that Trump does
because
of his
charismatic.
Charisma. You can't forgive DeSantis because he's like a lump on a log. It's just it doesn't work.
And
100%.
Trump has proven that he's tall because Barron is like what 607 feet tall.
That's the comparison. Put DeSantis next to Barron.
Oh my God! He will never stand next to Barron Trump.
All the way
it's
up.
going to be Trump 2024. Barron as VP, and he's just like 10 feet tall at this point. Everyone's just
he's like knees don't fit under the desk. He's just so enormously tall.
Barron's going to be the first emperor of the Imperium.
There's a lost to known statute in the Constitution that says you have to be at least 35 to be president or at least 10 feet tall.
At least, and Barron Trump is like, I'm on my way.
Barron's qualified.
Yeah.
That's your presidential news outside of Donald Trump.
We just skipped over Pence dropping out over the weekend. And we're like, DeSantis is field boots. That's how boring the Pence campaign has been.
When we were hanging out in Pittsburgh, and I'm like, I look at my phone, and it's like Mike Pence has dropped out, and I was like, oh, and I hit retweet, and I was like, what were we talking about again?
Yeah,
like I think what were we eating? I think we had what did I have for dinner? I had Thai food.
I said it to my stepmom.
Much more interesting than Pence.
Yeah, I told my stepmom, I was like, oh, Pence dropped out, and she's like, didn't he already do that?
He's running.
What?
He dropped out January 6, 2021. In reality.
To be fair, even the fact that we're making fun of Ron DeSantis is better than Nikki Haley. She's just she's in second place and is a lump on a log.
She's loved by a certain crowd though. Over 60-year-olds, they absolutely love this woman, and it's this old war mentality. This old America has to be in charge in the police state, and all that stuff.
Well, someone's got to blow up these kids, right?
Yeah,
that's the neocon.
I want a Department of Offense, not defense.
Is that she said that?
Yeah, she said I want a Department of Offense. You go fight. Woman.
I mean, that was a joke I made a long time ago to my friends that we don't have a Department of Defense, we have a Department of Offense, and then all my anti-war buddies started laughing, and now she's just coming out and saying it. So
who does she want to go to war with?
Everybody. You name a country.
I mean, fair enough.
War with Italy if she could.
But I don't see. I mean, currently there's the argument that Iran is funding Hezbollah and that it's possible that there be some kind of engagement, but that is pretty far down the road still. And I don't think that it's a direction that we should be trying to go. The American people have no desire to go to war with Iran at all.
The American people don't have an appetite for war right now.
Now, American people don't want to go to war for anything.
No.
We just want to fund proxy wars
for another
through Ukraine
country.
and everywhere else.
Can you imagine they send our people to fight in Ukraine, our soldiers to fight a war in Ukraine?
Well, they've already deployed thousands to Europe for the war in Ukraine.
Disgusting.
And we have special forces there.
These are lives of people. They don't understand that part.
Now I guess Ukraine's kind of fallen on the back burner. Zelensky is he's yesterday's news.
Back on seeking arrangement, looking for a new sugar daddy.
That's right. That's right.
I think that the war in Ukraine has been basically decided. You okay down there?
No, this is so funny.
It's true.
I mean, I don't think that anyone that's serious believes that Russia is going to give up any of the territory that they've taken.
No.
And I don't see any reason why the U.S. should keep giving money to Ukraine. I don't think Russia's looking to take more territory in Ukraine either. If the Ukrainians and the Russians can say, okay, this is it, I think that they could have some kind of ceasefire. There's going to be new borders drawn, and that's just the way it's going to be.
Zelensky doesn't want that. We'd have to stop paying him so much money.
Well, nobody
it's much less fun for him.
The U.S. doesn't want that either because they'd have to stop laundering money through.
It's not going to launder itself. That's so true.
Everybody's making a killing on this war, and I hate to say it, the best thing that could happen would be Russia wins and we don't have to deal with it.
Russia did win.
Because if Ukraine rebuilds, guess who's rebuilding?
Yeah.
Everybody in here's tax dollars.
Russia won.
Yeah, you're right.
It's fascinating if you look at the start of the war and the territory gained by Russia. And the argument I get from more establishment conservative types is, no, Russia wanted the whole country.
Yeah, sure.
It's like, no, they wanted the land bridge to Crimea. Like, that's what we've been saying nonstop. Now they have it, and now nothing's changed.
No.
There's no advancing. It's just locked, and Russia got what they wanted.
Yeah. And we'll never know when it really ends because the money laundering would stop. So this will go on into the next. I mean,
Well, I think it'll likely end because Israel's firing up.
true. That's a good point. They
So
got to
now-
figure out just how to launder it right through there, and we'll be
Right.
good. Yeah.
Yep.
Once they get the bank accounts all set up.
I don't think we should be sending any more money to Ukraine when we have people right here in the United States that are suffering and cannot afford to pay their rent and are staying and sleeping in the streets.
Amen.
Yep. It's as simple as that,
Yeah.
not it?
Sure is.
But for some reason, you get Mitch McConnell. What did he say? The biggest priority was funding
yeah,
for Ukraine.
funding Ukraine. He should go over there. He can have his little strokes in the next to Zelensky.
Wow.
Him and Lindsey Graham deploy them first. I mean, that's the craziest thing. At least Nikki Haley's husband is actively deployed right now. He's in Africa, but she therefore is willing to send her own husband to war. It's a bold choice, in my opinion, but all of the politicians who call for funding for war want to send your children and your siblings and your cousins. They don't want to go themselves,
I
and
think-
they don't want anyone they actually know or are related to go.
I think Lindsay just likes the war stuff because it makes him look more masculine, and we all know what's going on there.
I think these people are just funded by massive multinational corporations in the military-industrial complex, and so they're going to go on TV and warmonger.
100%.
But let's jump to this story from Deadline. Joe Biden talks about watching an AI-generated deepfake of himself. I said, when the hell did I say that? So apparently Biden wants to launch some AI safety regulations and guidelines and things like this. They say President Biden signed an executive order on AI, billing the U.S. as out front of other countries when it comes to establishing guardrails around the fast emerging technology. But Biden told those gathered in the East Room that other steps will require congressional action. That will be a much more complicated process, as lawmakers have been in a stalemate for years when it comes to any meaningful action on tech giants. Speaking to reporters after the White House ceremony, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said that all this, that his effort to craft a bill, this is about the hardest thing I've attempted to undertake legislatively because it is so complicated, because A, it's so complicated, B, it affects every aspect of society. Schumer said that he and the rest of the bipartisan group of lawmakers will meet with Biden on Tuesday to talk about the legislation. I think we're in a post-legislation era of this country.
Yep.
I don't think legislation is going to get passed unless it's nonsensical and irrelevant or jammed into an omnibus. And when it comes to major issues like AI, it's just going to happen and no one's going to do anything about any of it. So you look at where the internet is today and kids have access to adult content and nobody cares. In fact, there are libertarians who argue they should. It's the parents' fault. And I'm like, well, I guess it's like saying it's parents' fault if a kid goes to an adult bookstore and the guy lets him in. I think at a certain point, there is a shared responsibility between the people granting the access and the parents who are supposed to be watching their kids. With that being said, AI stuff is just going to keep happening. There's not going to be any regulation and it's going to get wild. And then that's it. Yeah. There you go. You'll live in the pod and you'll eat the bugs.
And China's going to control it all.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I feel confident that China, whether or not the U.S. Passes some kind of restrictions, because Mark Andreessen is frequently talking about doing some kind of limit on, he really wants a full stop on AI research because he thinks that it can get out of hand real fast. But I think that doesn't really matter because it's not going to be something that the whole world is going to abide by. Even if the U.S. companies or companies that had a large portion of their business done in the U.S., even if they committed to stopping, that doesn't mean China's going to stop. And I don't think that China is as cutting edge as the U.S. is, but I think that they would be, or they will be quickly if the U.S. stops develop, if U.S. firms and companies stop developing. I mean, right now, Google's as much of the military industrial complex as Raytheon is. Like they are exactly the same type of involvement with the warfare state and the surveillance state. So there's no incentive for these companies to actually stop, no matter what the president passes or executive order he says. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, and for me, part of the danger with AI is that it's marketed as just something fun that we try out and play right now. I mean, every time you get access to Photoshop just unveiled a tool that uses AI. So you can use AI to generate things. But that is refining the AI. The more exposure, the more people that use it, the more essentially free beta testing they have for it, the more complicated of a tool it becomes to unravel. And I just don't think that And look, I openly identify as a boomer in terms of technology, but I just don't think there's any way for the people who are legislating to legislate effectively and fastly enough to be ahead of this. We're already behind it. That's why we're trying to play catch up. And I certainly don't know anyone who can effectively talk about the ramifications of AI in a way that would eventually make it into an effective law.
Half of them can't even open an email, and they're the people that are going to do our AI
Some
legislation.
I think it was one of the Democratic congressmen from North Carolina. He used to do TikToks from the Capitol, and he was like, today I met with, the head of technology at the Capitol to get my laptop, and he deadpanned asked me if I needed him to needed help learning how to open the laptop and learning how to launch an email.
Wow. Feinstein basically stayed there dead for 6 months. So it's ridiculous. And these are supposed to be our leaders.
The executive order is basically going to direct the Department of Commerce to develop standards for authentication and watermarking. Impossible.
Yep.
They'll make the standard. It'll be exploited by them. That's what they'll do. They'll make a standard and they'll say, this label certifies a video organic. And then they'll just charge companies for that organic label.
Yeah.
So you're going to be a news organization and you're going to go to this system and you're going to be like, we're going to upload the video, we're going to certify it, and then they're going to stamp it, and then you're going to pay your monthly fee or whatever, or your license per content fee. Just like if you were getting other government stamps on your product.
Or if you're an independent journalist and you take video on the ground, what's to stop anyone else from saying, oh no, this doesn't have the right certification, or you didn't upload it correctly, or we have questions about this, so now we're going to lock down your content because we think it potentially could be AI generated based on literally nothing other than we don't really like what you're filming.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that I don't want there to be regulation. I think AI is, I'm fearful of it, but it's just hard to think of a way that would be effective and not open a whole bunch of other problems.
Right. You're right.
Anyways, I can ram on. I'll just continue to talk about why I'm scared of AI. Okay, here we go. No, I mean, this is the thing. I've had other people suggest to me that when I'm doing research for articles that I should turn to ChatGPT and ask it questions. And ChatGPT can be an incredibly effective tool. But I was just sitting with someone in the office who was using it to double check a math equation, and ChatGPT got it wrong. And so you just can't trust that the AI intelligence is actually reliable, right? I mean, it eventually will develop its own agenda. I do not trust it. I don't care what Elon says.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that AI will ever be creative, because currently AI is essentially it can only know what's on the internet now. It doesn't come up with any ideas of its own. So I'm not in any position to make an authoritative statement about AI, but I am skeptical that it could be creative in the way that human beings are. So,
sure, but I imagine, once it reads every book and listens to every song, it's already at that point where it knows what people like and then can make pop music. Granted, if you want to make art music, sure, weird, experimental, and weird sounds, it could certainly do that. Just increase the instability in the algorithm, and then it'll output something a little bit weirder.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what creativity is going to mean in that context.
When I say creativity, I'm more thinking in not so much creative like art style or musically, but like creative as in like innovations in fields. Like, I don't think the AI is going to figure out how to do cold fusion.
I disagree. I think it will.
You think you can figure out
Yep.
cold fusion? Because my impression is that without the information already being there, I feel like it wouldn't be able to come up with innovations. Was that?
So it's like Sudoku. So they've the periodic table, for instance, periodic table of elements. When it was first made, there was like huge gaps in it, and they were like, "There's probably something there based on this already," and then we're filling it in, and then we're like, "Whoa, there's like a whole section here." And so what I think it's going to be like a Sudoku puzzle. Once enough data is plugged into the AI, it's going to spit out, "Hey guys, see these things right here? There's a particle there, there's an element there." We're going to be like, wow, we could not see these things. And then it's not going to know. It's going to say, based on all of the pieces laid out, I'll put it this way. We're loading all the puzzle pieces of this 50 billion piece jigsaw puzzle into this machine, and then it's sorting them and then showing us the picture, and we're like, there's huge gaps in where there should be things here. Now we know what pieces are missing. We know what to look for. Yeah. But it's also going to be able to predict what those pieces are going to be, especially on things like elements, for instance, and particles and permutations of various compounds or whatever. It's going to be able to be like this. I remember watching these old movies where the scientist inputs into the computer, a formula and then press enter and then it's like formula unstable. And I'm like, well, how's the computer know? And I'm like, oh, back then probably not, but today, yes.
Oh, yeah.
You'll be able to input a sequence and then it'll tell you like, here's what will happen.
It's going to know much more than we can think. It's going to really advance, I think, exponentially, very fast. And
instantly.
It's going to be a very, very quick transition. Within 10 years, it's going to be really advanced. And
I don't think 10 years.
You think even faster than that?
Even faster than that. Because when the
scary.
when the singularity happens, it will be instant.
If it's faster, it's
scary because they'll use it against us somehow. It
It
always
will
starts
use
good.
itself against us.
Yeah, it's going to be a tool that's going to end up probably destroying us like everything else ends up being. We said,
But maybe-
Alexa, even Alexa was so good. Alexa's reporting people to the cops.
But that's why I never understood the draw to Alexa because it's always listening. That seems like
always listening.
like you bugged
That's
your
how
own
many-
home
how-
on behalf of
how
Amazon.
many crimes has Alexa turned in their owners for? It's ridiculous. And they
Do they
allow
really?
this- Yeah, I know a few people who got caught on crime. Well, I don't
'Cause
know
you
them
can
personally, but I see them on
You can
on-
subpoena the
Yes.
recordings from
Yes.
Alexa.
The first thing you should do is get those things the hell out of your house. It's craziness. It's craziness.
I had a boss who was like, "We'll put them in every office," and
Oh,
I was
yeah,
like,
you
"I have
put-
to
yeah,
leave
yeah,
this
you have to
job." I already
run.
thought that.
Right.
Everyone should understand that if you have concerns about Alexa, you should make sure you shouldn't have a smartphone either.
No, you need to keep that.
We
in
should
there.
all
Yeah.
move to the woods and the mountains.
I agree.
I mean, this is the hard thing, which is that I understand some technology is really valuable and can change the lives of people, advance business, this, that, and the other. But ultimately, what are we sacrificing to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
All these things, especially, again, I go back to sort of the free access to AI or, low cost access to some AI programs that are essentially allowing you to test AI out and it's testing you out. There is a cost and we're not going to know it until it's too late. And
That's for
that's what
sure.
I'm fearful of.
Yep.
I have Alexa in my apartment, but I don't have Alexa in my at my house in New Hampshire.
Why would you have it in your apartment, Phil?
Because
Are you
it's
crazy?
just the apartment. It's not the house in New Hampshire.
You crazy.
It's not the fortress of solitude.
You should protect all of the fortresses, even
No,
your satellite office here in
The-
West Virginia.
The apartment is not a fortress.
So you can talk to your dog when you're gone. Is that what you're saying?
No,
A little bit?
no, not at all.
Let's just jump to this wild story here. This is this was the big story of the day. So we can talk about a lot of news. Donald Trump's being sued, but the story that was sweeping across the internet from Human Events. British police open investigation into death of hockey player Adam Johnson, who was killed by opposing player's skate blade. Simple version of the story. A dude got his throat slit by an ice hockey skate and then bled out in the ring, died presumably very, very quickly. I mean, there's video of it. It's horrifying. However, the media kept calling this a freak accident over and over again. And then when the video came out, it looks like this dude, Matt Petgrave, raises his leg to kick the other guy. And there's video of it. I don't want to play the video because we're not here to play shock content, but it does look like a kick. But I will play a little bit. I won't show any of the aftermath because it's gruesome. But the first thing I want to do is I want to show you this. Jack Posobiec has this tweet in the article. He says, read this to the end. Let's read it. So this is a post, I believe, that was on Reddit. And it says, to all the people calling Matt Petgrave a murderer, if you seriously think Matt Petgrave murdered Adam Johnson, go F yourself. The guy was bawling his eyes out on the ice and in the dressing room and probably still is right now. He's going to have to live with this for the rest of his life, and the last thing he needs is people calling him a murderer. The claim that he purposely kicked his leg up has some merit and is a possibility. But to say that he meant to seriously hurt or kill Adam Johnson is pathetic and disgusting. If he did purposefully put his leg out, he did so to get in the way of or block Adam Johnson from making progress as the puck carrier, not to slice his neck open. His foot clearly clipped the skate of another player, causing him to lose balance. So even if he did kick his leg out, he had very little control over where his leg was going. Now notice they say it has merit that he raised his leg, but he didn't intend to do it. Perhaps the man, Petgrave, was bawling his eyes out because he did try to kick this guy, didn't mean to kill him, but did, right? Mm-hmm. So like teenager is joyriding in his car and speeding, and then he crashes into someone, killing him. Is he crying his eyes out? Yes. The woman in New York City, the young woman, she pushed an old lady. Old lady fell over and died. Did she cry in court? She sure did. Mm-hmm, does that mean that these people are innocent? No. So we have this video, and let me refresh it. See if I can try and... I don't want to play too much, but I'm really wants to play it all. Let's see if we can pull it up. And I don't want to play too much, but I want to just scroll through. You can see right here, this is Matt Petgrave in red, highlighted, and this is Adam Johnson. And then you can see him. He lifts his leg up. There's no reason for him to raise his leg like that. In fact, if he's losing his balance, that's the last thing he's going to want to do.
Yeah.
He raises his leg up right there. You can see it. And then hits this guy in the neck. But not something we normally talk about, but this is basically the biggest story, I think, right now. Yeah, it's like the only thing anybody's talking about. And it's causing a lot of contentious debate. And as someone who doesn't... I played hockey when I was little. So this was like... It looks like murder to me.
Yeah. I mean, at least like an intentional manslaughter charge or something like that, because I've played hockey well enough to know that, like, if I'm in the position he was in, why would I be lifting my in this case inside leg that high? There's no reason to. Maybe Adam Johnson was leaning down and that brought his neck in connection to like the blade, but still, everyone that uses skates knows that skates are sharp. Probably has them sharp too. He's playing professionally or amateur. I don't know.
It's pro.
Yeah.
Pro stuff. I mean, this guy knows. There's no question.
Yeah.
People are pointing out that the guy who did the kick has like the most penalties, but I don't know. It's European hockey, so I don't know anything about it.
European hockey.
Yeah, they get the penalties for just using the wrong pronouns. It's crazy.
That's right. That's right. That's Europe. Straight to jail.
Straight to jail.
Straight to hockey jail.
I don't know about murder, but manslaughter seems reasonable.
Nope. And this is what really this is one of the things that got me like, okay, we're gonna Human Events has the story. Manslaughter would be like you're speeding. No, actually, that would still be like a negligent homicide, which the laws vary by state. I think Illinois has negligent homicide, and that's like if you're speeding in your car and you hit somebody and they die. Manslaughter is usually like you're going too fast for the conditions, but you're going the speed limit. You slip, hit the brakes, spin out of control, hit someone and kill them, and then they say you could have avoided this. Manslaughter is usually like someone died as a result of you being irresponsible.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas negligent homicide is like you're in you may have been committing a crime, you were speeding, but it's not like the most serious thing in the world. And then in this instance, if dude was intentionally trying to kick the guy, that's grievous bodily harm murder.
Yeah.
If you intend to, like that woman in New York, she shoved the old lady. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's going to prison for 8 years.
That's it?
8 years? That's it?
She shoved the lady on purpose? I'm sorry.
A young woman pushed an old lady.
On purpose.
And
she died.
And the old lady fell down, hit her head, and died.
Yeah.
And so they're putting the young woman in prison for 8 years. She should not be going to prison for 8 years for that.
Okay, I didn't see this one, so
like,
I'm not sure.
Shoving someone is barely a misdemeanor.
Okay.
This woman in New York who did it.
Oh, it wasn't into the subway. She just shoved her.
No. She pushed her on the sidewalk.
Oh, okay. I thought she was, because in New York they're shoving everyone into the subway. It's like you go in the subway, you're getting pushed into the subway.
Well, I can see your confusion on the issue.
Yeah.
No, she pushed old lady on the sidewalk. Old lady fell down and died.
Oh, okay.
And then she was like, I didn't mean to kill her. I just pushed her. And so they gave her 8 years just for that. Now this dude kicked the guy in the, who was trying to kick a guy and he's wearing ice skates. That's murder. 2nd-degree murder. Intending to cause bodily harm that results in death.
I mean, I just can't imagine being anyone that was on the ice that day. You know what I mean? I mean, every report that I saw said that the guy died basically on live TV, and that's tragic.
The crazy thing is, on the 28th, I was in Pittsburgh.
Such a great city, I've heard.
It is a great city. And I was walking with Allison, my girlfriend, and I left my coat at the hotel. And so, it started to drizzle a little bit. It wasn't super cold out, but the drizzle, a little chilly. And I'm like, well, I should grab a light jacket or something. I don't actually have one. I have like a crazy snowboard jacket. And so there's a bunch of these stores, and they're all selling Steelers merch, Pittsburgh Steelers, football. And so I'm like, I'll just get like a Steelers thing. It'll be like a souvenir. I'll grab it. I go into the store. Everything is Steelers, this, Steelers, that. And then I walk in the back, and there's this gray, like waterproof thin jacket. I'm like, I'll grab this. And then as I walk up to the counter, I notice it's a Pittsburgh Penguins jacket, and I was like, "Oh, it's hockey." I was like, "I don't even know what this is."
Because they're off season right now.
I forget about hockey.
This guy on that day when I was buying that used to play for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's now playing in the UK. What does he play for? The Panthers? No, not the Panthers. I'm not sure, but he's playing in the UK. Used to play on the Penguins, and the guy Petgrave is on a team called the Sheffield Steelers.
That's so weird.
I just thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
That a guy who played in the Penguins, at the same time as this is happening, I'm buying a Penguins jacket by accident at a Steelers store, a fan store, and the guy who clipped him in the neck played for the Steelers. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, do they think they're
meaningless,
going to do anything?
coincidental.
Do we think they're going to do anything
They're investigating
about this? Yeah, I mean.
I mean, dude, the UK, nah.
No.
They're going to investigate him and they're going to let him go, and then they're going to arrest his neighbor
he's
for saying
black.
the
That
wrong
would
pronoun.
be very racist. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Also, I mean, it was listed in the chat here that he has 71 penalties in 11 games. So,
Is that a lot?
I mean, 71 penalties is quite a bit. You're definitely.
71 in 11 games. That's like I'm
Probably
not a
half
math
season
guy,
or
but
two.
that's like
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's quite
a lot.
bit.
It's numerous ones per game. So
It would be interesting to see this go to trial. I don't know what the charge would be, but the defense
Murder.
obviously can argue in a murder case. It was
like
accident. He was on ice. He didn't mean to. Whatever else, and then the other people have all these things to point with already. I mean, if the media has dug up his penalty record, what else is there? I mean, did these people exchange words in the locker room? There's all kinds of avenues to pursue.
Nah,
down-
they're playing on different teams.
But you know what I mean? Like any kind of argument to say this guy has a history of being aggressive, it would be interesting. I don't think anyone would be satisfied by the outcome ultimately.
Yeah, it would be a lot of controversy.
Well, hockey is an aggressive sport, so most of them are pretty aggressive.
yeah.
Oh yeah, he does play for the Panthers, I think. Yeah, the Nottingham Panthers.
Nottingham, yeah.
Yep.
I had no idea the UK did hockey. Not at all.
European League.
Yeah, no clue.
Yes, a lot of people are saying, Ian Miles Chong says it should be manslaughter at minimum, and I can't believe manslaughter is just like, no, it's murder. If you attack someone and they die, you murdered them. But I guess the argument is because they're playing sports or something, there's a degree of like mutual understanding of physical bodily harm or whatever.
Yeah, but they've got to understand. You put your leg up. You're wearing a blade on you. That's
And
They do, though. They
And
do
murder,
know this.
you
Of
have
course
to
they know,
prove
yeah.
intent, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of it. Whereas manslaughter is different.
manslaughter is just he died.
Yeah,
So
he
we'll
died
see.
because of your actions.
I don't know if they have the laws exactly the same over there. We're talking about it through the American legal system.
Right,
I don't
yeah.
know what their legal system is over there. I lived over there, but I never murdered or manslaughtered anyone, so I don't know experience.
You didn't have to experience it
No,
firsthand.
I never had to. So
You know what's crazy is a lot of people are bringing up the Clint Malarchuk. Is that how you pronounce the name? Malarchuk?
Malachuk, yeah.
1989. There's a video of this too. He's a goalie. They crash into him, and then he got his throat slit as well. And then Serge was mentioning this, like the guy runs up and then like pinches the artery shut or whatever.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like I don't even know what you do. Like I don't even understand how a doctor could save a person who's bleeding from their neck. Like what do you do to stop that? Because the blood's got to go to your brain, man.
Yeah.
Can they like pinch it off and the blood just comes from the other side or something? That's crazy.
If you can prevent it from getting out of the body, like if you pinch and close it,
that's
like
it,
if you can basically put your thumb over without actually stopping all the blood, I suppose.
It keeps the flow going.
I mean, not that I'm saying that it would be easy or that it's something like a task I could accomplish, but a doctor, I assume.
yeah, but not on a hockey field, probably in that.
Well, no, they do.
He did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 1989.
Oh, yeah.
Guy ran
It
up
happened.
and like grabbed his neck and pinched the artery shut and saved his life. This one, I guess they didn't know what to do.
Well,
Well, they
I mean,
probably have
now
to
the
keep-
doctors are all affirmative action doctors hired for.
There was no doctors.
Yeah, well,
there were
whatever.
none. They're on a hockey field, and on a hockey rink, and they all just like he's holding it, and it's just spraying and pouring out.
Well, and they probably take that guy with his thumb in the neck to the hospital with him. They can't pull his finger out until the last
Yep.
second, until they're ready to do
I
something.
believe the guy in the video with Malachuk was like an ex combat vet from Vietnam, so he'd encountered before, and he knew what he had to do, which is a really particular thing. But
Man,
yeah,
God.
it's crazy when I see these stories because people need to realize a single sentence can save a person's life.
yeah, true.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything could have been done here. I really don't know. If you watch the video, I mean, blood is spraying out so profusely. Apparently, within 10 seconds, he collapsed onto the floor, and then he was dead. Like he lost way too much blood.
Probably before they could even pull the cameras away. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
craziest thing, how fast this happened.
But there's a lot of stories of people who die and don't need to if people just knew like a single sentence, So in this instance, like, what do you do when someone's got a femoral bleed or arterial bleed or whatever? If someone just said to you the single sentence of how to make a tourniquet, you could save a person's life. And it's the craziest thing I think about this, like the time span between someone is injured, 30 seconds later, they're dead. They lost too much blood. And if you only knew that one sentence, they'd be alive right now. That's scary.
Or if you had first aid equipment on you, it's not hard to carry a blowout kit. I got a tourniquet sitting under the table here.
Man,
Yeah,
that's
it's a sad
crazy.
story.
It's not going to do any
Rest
any
in
good
peace.
for you're not going to do any good for a jugular butt.
I always think about these moments, man. There's a viral video on YouTube. It's an old video of like sports injuries that result in paralysis, and it's just like nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
But there's one video where a guy playing basketball gets frustrated, so he bangs his head on the bar, whatever you call it, the bar that holds up the hoop.
Oh God, yeah.
He's just angry. He's like, oh, and he hits his head, and then he goes rigid and falls over, paralyzed.
Forever.
Forever.
God.
Yep. Because he hit it, and it hit something in his neck, and then his neck went out, and then he fell down, and he was like, that's it. You can't move. There's that crazy video of that girl trying to do the milk crate challenge.
Oh God.
Oh well,
saw that
if they're
one?
doing that kind of
She falls down, and then she's like on her spine. It's like,
No, the one I saw was this girl was at a bachelorette party and someone pushed her into a pool. I think it was the bride, and then she's paralyzed from
falling in the pool.
She hit like the edge. It was like an above ground pool, and she hit the edge of it. And like, what do you do from that? I can't remember if she's paralyzed or she died, but it was really bad. Like these things that people do accidentally can have extreme consequences. That's where like with the hockey video, I think he probably intentionally kicked his leg up, but was it intentional? Like I'm trying to kill him, or was
you're
this
not gonna kill someone on camera in front of all those people. You know what I mean?
It's
If
a
you're
perfect
angry at him, you want to
crime,
go kill him. You're gonna
He
take
thought he
him
was
out
going to
back.
kick him.
So
Yeah, because it makes sense with the pads you're wearing and hockey getting kicked right here
Yep.
would not be life ending, but I think he probably was leaning too far forward. He's like, you're on ice, I don't know what happened. He really leaned too far forward and he connected with the neck, and that's how it's all it's going to happen. One cut.
That's crazy.
I feel bad for the families, to be honest. Like they're having to watch everyone speculate about all this, both sides.
True.
On air. Like that's just, it must be awful to be going through this right now.
Well, I guess the question of imprisonment and criminal charges is, what are we trying to do? What is the goal? Did this guy, Matt Petgrave, intentionally kick Adam Johnson to kill him? I don't think anyone thinks Petgrave was trying to kill the guy.
No.
So how is putting him in prison serving anyone's goals? It makes the family of Adam Johnson feel better. I don't know if that's the appropriate means of how we spend money on our taxes. I mean, granted, it's the UK, I get it, but thinking about it in the United States, like I was talking about that woman who pushed the old lady, and I'm like, why is she going to prison for 8 years? She pushed an old lady. She'll never do it again. She's probably traumatized. Yeah. So what's the point of prison? It's to make the family of the old lady feel better because now she's being punished for 8 years. Well, that's going to destroy her life. I don't think that's actually fixing any of the problems. Perhaps the idea is we'll send a message. They want to make an example so that everybody knows that if you push an old lady and she dies, you're going to prison like this lady. And then it's just like you're sacrificing one person for a message to be sent to everybody else. I'm never a fan of that.
Yeah, I think it's a fear of people who exhibit somewhat violent tendencies. How do we manage that? I mean, think about the guy, and his name's slipping my mind right now, who Daniel Penny had in that chokehold on the subway, and then he had this consistent history of attacking people on the subway. Didn't kill anyone as far as I know, but on the other hand, caused very serious bodily harm, broke an elderly woman's jaw, different things like that. He had a consistent pattern of violence, and there were minimal, interactions with social workers and the criminal justice system, and ultimately, he was once again in a position to be dangerous and violent when he ultimately.
No, Daniel Perroni, he did a great service that day.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a question of what is the point and role of the criminal justice system, and you don't want to punish people too harshly who have learned their lesson. On the other hand, we know that there are people who escalate in their violence over time.
Currently, the criminal justice system is to manufacture the proper opinions and to punish people for having the wrong opinions and behaving in the wrong.
I mean, it's a joke. You have CVS. They have pictures in DC on H Street. They have pictures of the toilet paper rolls, so you can tell the people the brand that you want, but they don't have the actual toilet paper out because it'll be stolen. So we're talking about a criminal justice system like that.
Let me pull up this story. We got this from NBC Bay Area. Alameda County DA Pamela Price's work laptop stolen from SUV in Oakland, the sources say. That's right. The DA in the Bay, one of the DAs in the Bay Area, who is apparently soft on crime, is now the victim of soft on crime policies.
Good.
This isn't the first one. I just a story last week about the New Orleans Soros-backed DA who was carjacked, I think, with his mom.
Good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not good.
It needs to happen.
Yes, but they want it to happen.
Yeah. Well, then good that it happens to them because they need to learn. They need to. I have no mercy on these people.
I see what you're saying, right? And we laugh because of Schadenfreude, but the problem is the Alameda County DA is probably laughing with you.
Do you think? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They intentionally do this, and when it happens to them, they go, it worked. We did it. We won. We have destroyed the city. Yay. And then what happens is conservatives are like, haha, great, we agree. And they're like, these idiots are agreeing with us. These people are destroying our once great cities, and conservatives are laughing along with them.
What are we going to do about them, though? That's the thing.
Vote them out.
Yeah.
Nothing unless the populations decide that they want to vote these people out. This is going to continue to happen. And it's been going on for the better part of 10 years. It didn't just happen overnight. These DAs and stuff, they've won multiple elections. They've got their administrations well entrenched into the local areas. And until the population decides I'm tired of it, that it's not going to change. And not for nothing, but your average person that has kids and a job that doesn't pay attention to politics all the time, they don't really pay much attention. They don't know what's going on. They're not aware. And when you tell them, I've had the experience myself. I'll tell my friends that are left-leaning. I was just in California a couple of weeks ago. I'll tell my friends that are left-leaning about things, and they just don't believe it. They're astounded. They have no idea. And I don't blame them because, look, you got a family. That's the most important thing in your life. You got kids. That's the most important thing in your life. I get it. But you do have to be aware of what is going on in your own municipality.
We've got a guy in Philly named Larry Krasner. He's a disaster. Nobody even knows his name. They don't even know his name. This guy has turned the city into a complete disaster. Not that we were ever great. It's been a disaster since I've been born. But right now, what we have, you can't even go downtown anymore. And what was this woman doing with a laptop in her car visible, by the way? And how stupid. This is how stupid
you don't know it was
these people are. Well, who knows?
It probably was not visible.
Who knows?
Because they smash out. So what people are doing now in the Bay Area is they're leaving the back gates of their vans and SUVs open, and they're leaving the doors open.
Yeah,
Why?
I heard
so that the criminals won't smash out the windows to come. And so if the doors so they walk up to any car with nothing in it and they'll smash the windows out and then check the trunk and then leave.
That's why we got the Second Amendment.
And we're seeing this taking place throughout the United States in all of these Democratic run down districts. People, when you keep voting for the same people and you are expecting a different outcome, it's not going to happen.
That's the internet's definition of insanity. But like Phil mentioned, these people don't know. And, I can say proudly that the past few holiday cycles, I've encountered many people who engage exactly as Phil said. You'll say something like, yes, X happened. And they'll go, that's not true. There's no way. And then this is 2 years ago. And then last year, they're like, I read that. And then I was reading this thing, too. And it's like people are starting to realize. Ian was mentioning this a couple weeks ago, that whenever a crazy story comes out, he immediately has to call his mom to make sure he gets the information to her before the mainstream media can put some cover up over it.
Yeah.
Ian is his own breaking news to his mom.
Yeah. Mom, you're going to hear the story. Here's the link. It's from this article. They're going to come out and they're going to say something. And then he's like, if I don't tell her, she'll believe some crazy nonsense later on.
Yeah,
my
it's the
mother
first
watches
impression.
that stuff, and the things that she believes, she's probably watching this, but she's never watched the podcast before. I know that much. But, the things that you believe, if you only get your news from the mainstream media, it's unbelievably sad how misinformed these people are. And willingly, it's all out there. We know it. We found out.
To some degree, to some extent, I agree with you. I harp on Barack Obama in the 2012, I think it was, NDAA that repealed the Smith-Mundt, or had the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act. Essentially, what it said is that since the 40s, the federal government wasn't allowed to propagandize the American people. Essentially, they couldn't produce materials for dissemination inside the United States. And in 2000, I think it was 12, the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act was part of the NDAA that Barack Obama signed. And it happened just at the time that the smartphone was coming into it was getting into everyone's pocket, and social media with the like button was essentially the most powerful mind control tool ever invented. And so you've got people that are in the tech industry and stuff like that are producing these applications that draw people in, and people love to use them. And the federal government is given free rein to feed these tech companies and whatever information they want, and the media and the tech companies do it willingly. There was no need for payoff or anything, because what the federal government offered was access. If you do these things, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And that was the beginning of the tech companies, in my opinion, becoming a part of the military-industrial complex.
And you never hear the Republicans who are supposed to be on our side about the propaganda stuff. You never hear them talk about that act, and you never will. There's one candidate in Texas, Caroline Kane. only person I've ever heard bring it up.
I'm pretty sure that there's a guy running that will talk about it. The AK guy, Brennan. I forget Brendan's last name, but he'll talk about it. He'd mentioned it. But it's something that people need to know.
Yeah.
The fact that the federal government is not only allowed to disseminate information into the population, but is doing it in conjunction with tech companies that have the ability to literally control people's opinions, right? People will behave in remarkably different ways if they get likes or they get, approval from their friends. And that's exactly what the like button does. It gives people that little dopamine hit, and those kind of small dopamine hits that are not something that is a big deal. It's a little bit all the time. It flies under the radar, and it has had a massive, massive impact on the population. People talk about how in 2012, 13, everything seems so much crazier now than before that. And you hear that people my age talking about that all the time, and I truly believe that it is because prior to 2012, 2011, you didn't have the kind of consistent propagandizing from the federal government.
I don't think so. I think
you said
did.
it yourself with the
algorithms.
With algorithms.
Yeah, but that's private sector. That was before the repealing of this act, and the U.S. government has been propagandizing for a long time. A lot of the stuff that we see leaked from WikiLeaks, for instance, and from other hacker groups around that time show they were doing this well before. And I think what they ultimately did with this was more overt. It was the Simpsons-esque superliminal, where they just launch these American-backed foreign media companies. I don't think that repealing this propaganda act is what made everything get crazy. I think it's social media and the internet, and that's why the 90s was the last decade, right? Like every decade is easily discernible, except for the 2000s and beyond. It's a big mess.
Yeah,
and it's because the internet fractured global culture, American culture, and has continued to. I think it's going to be rebuilding itself, though. I think it shatters into all these different pockets where people start listening to very specific things, specific people, and you no longer have. I said this 10 years ago. I was at a conference. I said fame is done because of the internet, and I was like, you're going to have famous people, but it's not going to be like actually, Phil and I were talking about this, like Metallica, the biggest band ever.
Yeah,
but it's because there was a period where culture was more unified.
Yes.
And there were fewer channels to get access to music, Metallica being the best, got everybody. But now there's probably a band, very, very, very good, very great music, but they have a much harder time reaching as many people because no longer straight top-down broadcast tower, it's more even out.
Everything is niche now.
But I'm kind of thinking that things will start to recoalesce again. They'll start to come back together for a combination of reasons. One, people are power naturally does this. And so we're seeing people want to be like each other. So there's trends and they want to follow these trends. But more importantly, the powers that be are desperately trying to cobble back together the broadcast tower so they can have singular control over what people think.
Yeah.
And we see that a lot, some like the elderly population, they stay home all day. They watch the news channels all day and they believe everything that's being shown on the news. They don't search for any type of education to dispel anything that they're seeing on the TV. So that's why it's so important that you talk to them, help people understand that everything that you're seeing on the media isn't necessarily true.
Because the elderly in particular were raised in a different era of information, right? I mean, when you only had the radio, we had like 4 channels. It's very different. Not that you necessarily should have believed everything.
They could lie
then.
way better then.
They could lie way better then, but also there was very few outlets to challenge it. And now we have a lot of ways to challenge information. In fact, it can happen so rapidly, it's often hard to keep up with. And I think that's where people who are not as engaged, either because of their age or because of their lifestyle, sort of get lost. They can only get the headlines, and that's not enough.
I've talked about my show idea a couple times here, which is more like a half-assed show idea because it's never going to get made. But the idea being that in the future, I'll give you the very quick version. The planet basically is post-apocalyptic. There's one city left. It's the last city. It's relatively big. And no one has any idea what happened to humanity or how civilization collapsed. Long story short, it turns out all of humanity still exists. They just are in underground bunkers in the metaverse, plugged their brains into the Neuralink. And the reason why the last city doesn't know this is because they consume information in a dramatically different way. The idea for that is basically because it's happening now. Older people don't know how to use. I'm not saying they absolutely don't. I'm saying most old people don't use Twitter, don't use TikTok or Instagram, and get their information only from the authority figures on TV. So they are living in bubble world. And when you go to them and you're like, hey, here's a thing that's true, what you're believing is fake, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And you're like, let me show you the tweet. I don't know what that is. You may as well be going to someone and being like, you don't know what's going on with Joe Biden because you're not in the metaverse plugged into the Neuralink and getting the information down. Oh, there it is. New information proving his corruption. And then they're like, what information? Yeah, he took $200,000. How do you know that? It was wired right to my brain. If you were plugged in, you'd know it too. I don't know how to plug into that stuff. I'm going to turn on CNN. CNN doesn't talk about it. That's basically the gist of the story I was making up is basically see that what we're seeing now with how people consume information. You can go to your friends and family, and there's a reason why your older relatives and family holidays don't know these things and don't believe you because they're not plugged in the same way all of you are. I mean, if you're watching this show, you are plugged in.
Yeah, you're engaged in a different way. And I think that's one of the interesting things that we'll see happen with definitely millennials, probably Gen Z, is that they are, I mean, I know more and more people, and I wish I had the data with me on me to prove this, but one of the biggest changes culturally is that people don't have cable anymore. There are tons of families that just don't have it. You know, college students who are getting their first apartments or young adults, whatever, they don't get cable because they only need Wi-Fi because they stream everything anyways. There is a complete disconnection from an entity that used to have access to people. Maybe that's good. On the other hand, they are reliant on a very decentralized way of getting information, and that could also be bad. I mean, this is why.
Well, kind of. I mean, it's centralized too. That it's on TikTok. It's on the same platform. It's no longer the internet anymore. Like our millennial generation grew up with the internet and going to different sites and stuff. Now it's on platforms, and these platforms have organizations behind these pages.
Yeah.
So it's another centralization of news source, which then unfortunately leaves it really vulnerable to this sort of like top-down control media narrative saying like it's going to be one way or the other, and this is the only way to hear the story.
Yeah,
So
big agendas.
We got this this story, London and UK street news, pro-Palestinian activists throw live mice into McDonald's. I kid you not. Here's the video clip. All right, we'll turn that down. And you've got the Free Palestine. They've got the
dyed the mice?
Seriously, don't do anything like this because, dude, what like this is so mean to the mice. Let alone like the illegality of doing this. Look at this. This is pro-Palestinian activists walks into a McDonald's. This is in the UK. They say rats at McDonald's, but these are clearly mice.
God help us.
That's so messed up, dude. Hell no. Those poor mice. Like, those mice are probably going to get killed now because of it for no reason. They should be fed to a snake or something.
And they want you to do it.
Are they going to do it in Starbucks too?
What is the point? What is the point of ruining the community that you live in?
They say, hold on, look at this. They say Starbucks. They say targeted boycott the big three. Start by boycotting these brands that are directly involved in supporting the Israeli apartheid. Starbucks, McDonald's, and Disney Channel. Well, okay.
How does that help their cause? I mean, who is going to say, "Oh yeah, they threw rats. We got to be on Palestine's side"?
It's just malicious and destructive.
And it's disruptive to business. I mean, that's the point, right? You release mice into a restaurant, they have to shut down for a couple hours.
The McDonald's,
or maybe not. I don't know.
McDonald's, maybe
the thread that runs through a lot of the protests and stuff like that is just anti-Western, anti-capitalism. So the whole Palestinian thing, like the Palestinians are fighting the Israelis. The Israelis are generally looked at as a Western democracy. This is an attack on capitalism, they think, or they would probably consider it an attack on capitalism, an attack on Western consumerism, an attack on actual Western, things that are in the West. So the fact that the left is kind of a monolith now, I think that's part of why it's playing out like this.
Yeah. And nothing will happen to them in London, and they know that. London is a disgrace. The entire UK is a disgrace, what they let people get away with. That's why it's such a disaster over there.
But you
it's
can't...
a mess. All of the amount of raping, the acid attacks, the disaster.
They're literally arresting people for silently praying outside of an abortion clinic.
Yeah. Several times. There's a lot of those videos.
Multiple people get arrested for literally standing there and not saying anything.
Social media posts, too. I mean, there are many people. I knew a woman over there went to jail just because she used to go and protest in Hyde Park. She used to not protest, but Speaker's Corner, which was supposed to be all about free speech. They arrested this woman I know 2 times because they didn't like her speech. Well, it's Speaker's Corner. That's the point of it. It's
clown show.
the whole of Europe has become woke. I mean, that's why they're being taken over. That's why the whole place is being destroyed.
And they want us to pay for their defense.
Yeah, sure. We shouldn't be giving them a thing. We should be out of NATO. We should let them just do whatever they want.
Out of NATO. There
Out
you
of
go.
NATO. Get
That's what I'm
out.
talking
Get
about.
out. Let them
That's
fend for
right.
themselves. You want to be woke? You want to be
It's-
all
it's-
into that crap? Get out.
This is
Go be
this is going to
invaded.
be really interesting, though, as that's basically what's happening is the American people are basically fed up with the failures of Europe and us footing the bill.
Yeah.
And we've been footing the bill since basically World War I.
Yeah.
And why?
They're letting themselves become invaded. They are allowing even Italy, Spain, all these countries. They get people over from North Africa all day. They come in. They have no respect for the culture of Europe, no respect for the history of Europe. They come in. They rape all the women like it's their job. They do all these awful, awful things to the communities. They take over entire towns.
Well,
what are
they're-
we supposed
they're-
to do? Bail them out
Well,
when it turns hot, when it gets into
Right.
a
So
real
the
bad
issue
part?
is the unchecked immigration and these videos of people landing on boats and rushing into the country.
Yeah.
I don't think the issue is immigration.
No, not immigration as a whole, but these are people that nobody knows who they are. Somebody came with a goat yesterday on an NGO boat into Italy. There was a
goat-
video of, well, it could have been an
goats are
emotional
great.
support goat.
It's an asylum seeker. What are you
It's
talking
an
about?
asylum seeker with his
It's not an asylum
partner or whatever you want to
No,
call
goat
it.
is not seeking asylum. That's
No,
true.
the goat. Well, the goat might be because God knows what's happening to him on that boat.
But goats are based, and
Yeah.
we like goats. And the issue is, this is why I want to be careful of not conflating.
Right.
If there's a legitimate asylum case, and the issue
how do we
is,
know?
No. They're not asylees. They're not asylees.
None of them. No.
They're not.
No.
These people are economic migrants as
Yes.
per the UN.
Yes.
So when people are like I think it's important to draw the distinction, specifically because it's the argument used by the left to justify having no border security. So AOC specifically saying they're legal asylees. No. The people that we're upset about are quite literally the people who are criminals, not the immigrants and the asylum seekers who are either legitimately coming here because they love this country or they want to seek opportunity and they're filing the paperwork. The people that are the issue are the people who are breaking the laws,
Yes.
coming here, and then continue cartel members,
Yeah.
et cetera, and then they're going and committing crimes.
Right. And it's an insult
And
to
the-
people who do it the right way.
And
It's
the
a
left
big
is trying to
insult.
make sure that when we talk about it, it's one group
Yes.
instead of completely separate groups of people.
Right.
If people really liked, as for Europe, the problem is they're not having kids.
None.
Yeah, I don't know if this is true. People are saying that Italy hasn't recorded a birth in a few months, something like this. I don't think that's true.
What did they say? Italy hasn't recorded a birth period?
in 3 months.
Oh, please.
I don't know if that's true.
No, that's definitely not true. No.
But when you look at the fertility rates, I talked about this last week in the U.S. and Europe, they are collapsing.
Right.
And it's not just like, oh, look, they're down, because they were down before. It's worse now.
Yeah.
It's worse. But I will say the path towards winning the culture war is actually really simple at this point too. It's just anybody who wants to win just needs to have 5 kids.
Yeah, it's a
This is
long-term
true.
investment in the future.
This is true. Yeah.
But I don't think that people, I think about this all the time, which is like we say you should have children, but that tide's going to turn really slowly. And I wish that there were more ways to get people engaged in making a difference right now.
It's easy to say have children, but you can't get a house in this country right now. The interest rates are 8%. But who can afford a child? I mean, how many children do I see when I come to your food bank and you're lying? That they can't be fed. They can't afford 5 kids right now.
Yeah, but
if they want them to have kids, they should put some incentives in place.
Look at Hungary. Hungary did a great job. You have 4 kids, you don't pay income tax.
Yeah.
right.
Where's that policy?
The child tax credit. I think
Yeah.
Biden was talking about doing that. Democrats were talking about doing it. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a bipartisan issue because if our birth rate declines too far for too long, we did see an increase in the years after COVID, very, very slightly, not enough to, really say the tide has turned. But it should be a bipartisan, cross-cultural, everyone needs to be having more children. And instead the narrative is, especially on the left, well, we can't have children. Everyone agrees it's too expensive, but they also argue the environment. The environment can't take this. You're overpopulating. There's too much pollution. This, that, and the other.
but
this
it's not
climate
true.
change
But
garbage.
it'll be difficult to fight that narrative. And ultimately, as much as I would love it if just conservatives had millions of children each, ultimately you need a lot of people, including the moderates who are on the fence, who might hear these arguments to have children.
The problem is it's very, very much perception and standards, and people don't want to live beneath the modern standards. And that's that. I get it. I can respect it. But I don't know how you can look at people who came to this country on boats and landed on desolate shores with their kids. These people were like, Imagine if the original pioneers who came to this country were like, nah, I can't have a family because I can't afford medical care, a house, insert. Yeah, no, 20% of the people died on the boats. And they came here anyway with nothing. And now I know people are saying, yeah, but like you can't even build a house. Back then you could like build a fortress, or like you could build a little house somewhere in the middle of the woods at least, and people would work with you to build houses. And it's like you could move out of cities and struggle and have a 20% chance of death like the original pioneers and colonists, and then find look, if you move out of the city and go somewhere where it's rural, where the houses are really cheap, and then you start doing the work, the physical labor to build your house, you have a 100% survival chance.
But are people built like that anymore?
That's the issue.
I don't think anybody's
so,
really
but
built like that
but saying that we're not built like that is not an excuse as to why the people who came before us were hardy and more tough, more resilient, and more willing to take the risks. Just saying like it's too hard today. I'll be like, it was harder back then.
I don't believe
certainly you can succeed.
I don't believe that that money is the real deciding factor, like people's inability to afford to have kids. I don't think that that's the real deciding factor. I don't know that I have a strong opinion on what it is. I think it's probably cultural and has to do with people's upbringing and stuff. But there've been a lot of times there's a long time of our history where people had a significantly lower standard of living and they were punching out kids like it was their job.
Yeah.
So it's not that they have to have X amount of dollars to be able to afford kids. When you have kids, no matter how much money you make, unless you're like really independently wealthy, you probably always feel like if you had a little more, it would be easier, And so really the thing is, if you want to have kids, you go and have kids. That's what people do. If people find it important to have kids, they don't wait until they have a certain amount of money. They want to have kids, they have kids.
Yeah, America's declining birth rate parallels declining community participation. Yeah. So it is generally a turning away from the building of any sort of social group, right? I mean, the family is not just a social group, but it is a core unit of your community, and you kind of make decisions from there. And I think especially people look to one another. And so even if we can never put a finger on exactly why people choose not to, the more people who choose not to, the more likely the people around them also opt not to have children.
That's
that
true.
has
There's a lot of
intense
propaganda
effect.
again. Look at that. What's that beast's name? Handler, Chelsea Handler. Always posting those TikToks. I didn't have any kids. I flew to France this week. I'm so happy.
No, she is happy. Good for her.
I'm sure.
But,
Yeah.
So I was looking at 3,000 square feet of land for in a city in Martinsburg for $19,000.
Wow.
Okay. Not a lot of people have. A lot of people probably don't have $19,000. You can get a loan for it if you want to pay for it, but you can get an acre of land for half that if you go out to the middle of nowhere. Now here's the question: if you went and bought an acre out, 2 hours west of DC in the middle of a field somewhere, bought the land, built a makeshift little hut for your family. Your family was filthy, covered in dirt, bathing in the swimming hole, and you were eating and hunting for food, and then you were slowly cutting down trees and having your kids help you build your house, which was very small. Would anyone consider that to be a reasonable standard of living for people in this country?
CPS would be there instantaneously.
The answer is no.
Yeah.
No, I don't think CPS would be there instantaneously, not at all, because there's tons of families that are completely neglected and ignored, and these children are left to suffer. I'm talking about parents who are actually taking care of their kids the old-fashioned way. They'd probably be completely ignored. But nobody wants to do that.
Right.
The idea that you would be living in the wilderness, basically, with no resources, no electricity, living off the land is unthinkable and unheard of. And that is the difference between then and now. Back then, granted, you didn't really buy the land. You just went and set up somewhere where no one had a claim.
Right.
Nowadays, you have to actually buy it, so you'll need some money, meaning you gotta have some savings. But nobody's gonna do it. Nobody thinks it's reasonable to buy an acre of land and then start building a house, taking care of their family. Or even more reasonably, you could buy probably 5 acres for $10,000 somewhere far out in the middle of nowhere.
But are there jobs out there? That's the
What do you need a job? I'm talking about eating deer and eating wild fruit and learning which leaves you can eat. So our ancestors quite literally did this, knowing like, hey, winter might come, we might die. But they're like, we're gonna hunt, we're gonna, and they had basic skills. But people today don't have this. And so again, I think it is unreasonable to expect anyone to do this. But this creates the predicament. When we say we can't afford a house, we're saying we can't afford insulation, air conditioning, clean running water, All of these things are a part of the standard that we have to maintain and we expect to maintain for our families. But no one wants to have kids unless they can maintain what is effectively living like a space king by medieval standards. The idea that your house is insulated or that you have running water is like the kings didn't even have this. Granted, Roman Empire had indoor plumbing. My point is, we've talked about how technology becomes necessity, luxury becomes necessity. When cell phones come out, only rich people, the wealthiest people have them. And you don't need to have a cell phone, but if you do, wow. Now cell phones you have to have it.
Right.
You can't get a job without it. And these things cost money. So now all of these luxuries have become necessities and no one can afford to do it. And nobody wants to go and live back off the dirt like we used to back in the day.
No, I think it would be impossible for people to avert. I mean, the people I know who do really live off the grid, very few of them have a lot of children. And I think that there are a lot of reasons for that, right? It is the reason we have iPad kids is because modern conveniences are built into a lot of parenting nowadays. Yeah. And it's not that it's bad or good, although it's not great.
And usually both parents are out of the household now. The mother's not there with the kids anymore.
Right. And to maintain a modern standard of living, you would need both incomes in most families.
You do. You need it. It's. I mean, people are not getting by. Well, it's real. And another part of this is the no-fault divorces that ruin the men. They have to be careful. And then the child support comes in, and then you get ruined, and everything you built, you get screwed.
The
society's not set up to incentivize it.
There is not a lot of incentive for people to get married anymore in the United States. There's very, very little incentive. It's the
other way around. There's a tremendous disincentive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Fair enough.
Which is funny because, like, statistically, it bears out that children who are born to married families do better, right? There's all sorts of benefits, keeping the family intact. So there's no cultural incentive, but actually, if you look at it, marriage is hugely beneficial. And so we have to remind people why we had marriage in the first place, that there was a good thing.
Marriage is beneficial to individuals, to families, to people, but all of the outside incentives disincentivize marriage. Yes. All of the things that our society does, the media disincentivizes it. Mm-hmm. All of
social media.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and until we can remedy that, I think that we're going to continue to have, instability in family creation.
And in culture. I mean, again, family is at the core of all society. So if the family is unstable, why would the society be stable? That doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's very true.
I think at a certain point, someone super chatted talking about Japan, for instance, population's going to dramatically decline. It's going to have very interesting effects on global power structures. And then there will be a pendulum swinging the other direction.
I think you could say that as well. If you look at Japan, they currently have all of the younger people in our generation, pardon me, are all essentially making all their money from taking care of the elderly. Like, it's like the whole industry in Japan, and it's not sustainable for a long term. Yeah, they're not having kids because they're too busy with their jobs, et cetera, et cetera. It's a whole cultural problem.
Feminism. When we eliminated the female traditional role and had women take on the male traditional role,
right?
This is what ends up happening.
Exactly. Very true. This is the end result. What are we, like 50 years into feminism, or a little more? What do you say we are?
It's not feminism. It's the birth control pill.
I
think it's one of the same.
That's a component of it.
Because you can have feminism and have the ideas all you want, but if you don't have the birth control pill and people just do not have the capacity to behave the way that they do now, the free sex, the free love stuff that doesn't happen. Too. That doesn't happen. No,
big time. That's
abortion. Maybe, but I think that you wouldn't get to the point where abortion happens regularly if you didn't have the pill. The pill allows women to go to work regularly. The pill allows a lot of women. It stabilizes.
Women can go to work if they weren't on the pill.
They'll end up getting pregnant.
Well,
and have
it just allows people to act like feral animals.
Exactly.
The
pill had a huge
I agree, and so does abortion. But there are a lot of women who don't take birth control pills who go to work. It is a social norm that women must work. That's it. Women must get jobs and must take care of themselves.
But that is an effect of the pill. That is not a cause.
But
I don't think so. I don't think you can say that they're related in that way. They're two things that are a component of a similar thing, but they're independent of each other.
Yeah. I also think that during the birth control movement, there were already women who were working who thought, well, now that I'm liberated, I have my own money, I want to be able to behave different sexually. I mean, I want a different life. I think in some ways, women entering to the workforce encourage them to get on birth control, but I don't think it's the other way around. There are all kinds of reasons that women wanted or thought that, you know, the women's lib movement was attractive. And ultimately, like I said with AI, they pay a price that they don't know what it will be. And the birth control pill is incredibly dangerous. It's overprescribed, in my opinion. It does, I think you're right, it does allow women to stay in the workforce for longer, but I think they were already looking for ways out. I think there were arguments against just separating the family before the birth control pill came on the market.
It was the first step that allowed women to behave as men.
I don't think that's
sexually.
true. I think that women already were, there were women's movements to give them, I mean, this was the whole argument with suffrage, right? Men can vote, so we should be able to do that. That has nothing to do with the birth control pill. This has been going on for a long time. Is it good? And I think probably birth control expedited it. I'm no fan of the birth control pill, but I don't think that it was the birth control pill that opened the door for feminism. It was already there. It was just a ticking time bomb. I think in some ways feminism allowed people to be more accepting of the birth control pill because they saw it as this progressive choice for women.
I agree with Anna Claire on that. I looked it up. The birth control was invented in 1950. It was when it was first introduced. But like women's suffrage movement and women entering the workplace was happening in the early 1900s. These arguments for changing in the roles happened with industrialization and probably population expansion and the security state. When women became secure, they no longer need men in the same way that men need women. So, you know, if you go back to well before industrialization, women are more vulnerable than men. Men protect women. But once we eliminated the bears, the wolves, the coyotes, and the external threats and had centralized police forces, now it's like the state can function as the man for the woman in general, and the women can go do whatever they want, but now they need money to do whatever they want.
Right.
Which probably leads to the creation of birth control.
Yeah, that definitely.
Perhaps, but we're going to go to Super Chats for now. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and head over to timcast.com. Click join us to become a member and support our work directly. If you like the work we do, if you like the show, if you like all the crazy projects we're involved in, then become a member because your work directly fuels this machine. And we're going to have that uncensored show coming up for you in about 25 minutes where you, as members, can actually call in and talk to all of us. But for now, we'll read your Super Chats. All right, RJ McDougalheim with the first super chat saying, "Yo, Alpha Turkey. Unfortunately, you were not first." He says first, no, second. Isaac, however, says thirst.
Correct.
For third, and you are correct. You were the third super chat. Congratulations. Jason Dixon says, "Hey Tim, can you please shout out the Discord? We are building community, and we would like to one day thank you in a voice forum. Please visit us." Yes. See, the Discord server that when you sign up to become a member at timcast.com, we have a Discord server. What is that? It's like a chat room. You sign up, $10 a month, and then after 6 months, you can submit questions and call into the show, or you sign up at $25 and you can call right in as soon as you sign up. We just have that gate because we're trying to keep out bad actors. However, the members have created their own shows, their own chat rooms, their own projects. And so when you join, you're also part of that club where you're hanging out with like-minded individuals. They're doing great work. They got pre-shows. They got after shows. It's really great stuff.
It's crazy. They're the most productive worker bees I've ever seen.
All right. Debabo3 says, Alec Baldwin coming to Steel City Con outside Pittsburgh in December. Facebook comments roasting him.
Hopefully he doesn't shoot anybody.
He'll have to be on his best behavior. Goldilocks Production says, couldn't believe the amount of lying Cenk did in Friday's Culture War. Also, I'd be totally down to have Dennis Prager debate Scott and correct him on his history on Israel. We can look into that. That'd be great. Culture War episode.
Will Chamberlain says that he would debate
Scott
Howard. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think everybody wants Dennis Prager because it's Dennis Prager. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You know. But that would be really interesting. And Will's very mild mannered.
Yeah.
I do not think it could possibly get heated.
No.
Scott would get excited, and then Will would just be like, "Well, you know, the thing is," very calm.
Yeah.
All right. What do we got? Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Sean Strickland out here playing 4D chess. Oh, man.
Yeah, dude.
We're going to talk about this in the members only show so we can get a little spicy with it. But Sean Strickland came out with probably the smartest thing as it pertains to the Bud Light UFC sponsorship that I didn't even think of. And he hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about, he's basically saying that Bud Light is now paying him to say everything he's going to say and everyone else. And you know what? He makes a good point. maybe this does save Bud Light, because wait till you see what he has to say. He's talking about a lot of culture war issues and being very strong about it. He said some things I don't think anybody in this room would want to say. But the point is, he's pulling.
Definitely say.
He's pulling as hard as he can in the other direction and forcing Bud Light to pay for it. JTS says, get Sean Strickland as a guest. I knew as soon as I saw the UFC story that he would have something to say. The guy is really funny, really based, and is actually a good example of what a champion is. That'd be epic. I mean, we'll save it because I don't want. We got to talk about his statement. We're going to talk about. It's not family friendly. Well, it's probably family friendly, but we're going to save it for the members only. We'll get spicy with it. All right. Brandon says, check out protests in Panama over Chinese-backed Canadian oil company. Given large land and land stealing rights, huge fear the protests could disrupt the canal and that China is aiming to take it over. They are. China tried building the Nicaraguan canal. This is like 10 years ago, and they would have had to have destroyed a massive natural aquifer to do it, and so it was ultimately abandoned. But controlling the Panama Canal is big bucks power. All right. Harry Toe says, FYI, your channel always shows on my top row of suggestions. I had to scroll down a bunch to find it. It's never done that before. Well, here you go. This is what happens when, we call out these stories. So make sure you smash that subscribe button and that bell, but also you can always watch the show on the front page of timcast.com.
True, yeah.
It is always there on the front page of timcast.com. And we have the Timcast app. So download the app on Apple and you can watch in the app. And the best part is, in the app, you can actually you can sleep your phone, whatever it's called, I don't know, suspend, and it'll keep playing the sound, and you can keep listening.
Oh, that's great.
Harry says, I also didn't get a notification. I had to scroll a bunch to find your show. Yup.
Yeah, I didn't get notified to get either.
Polypure says, where is Ian? Is he okay? I don't know. He's gone.
I hope so.
There's no more Ian. So if he's not back by Wednesday, we'll take the sign down. And then we'll put up a Phil sign or something. We'll have to get one made.
There you go.
All right, where are we at? Leaf Hagen says, in states Trump is removed from the ballot, down ballot senators, reps, DAs, governors, etc. will all suffer greatly. We're talking county by county. That's right. Yup. Tremendous victories for Democrats. That's the point.
Yeah.
James Moaning says, first, stand your grounds. Coffee is delicious. Well done. Second, what do you want the normal people to do? You have the DOJ and judges against non-Dems. You have establishment against us, and you have us worried about effing cowboy boots. Repeat, effing cowboy boots. Hey, we're going to have a little bit of levity on the show. Just because we talk about Ron DeSantis wearing high heels doesn't mean we're not saying don't get serious. But what you do is actually, it is relatively simple. The first thing you do, you listen to a show like this. The second thing you do is you give money to people who are doing tremendous things. And I'm not just saying give us money. I'm saying anyone you support, think you're doing a good job. Scott Pressler, however, and by whatever means you can support his work, fund the people who are doing the work to the best of your abilities. One of those things you could do, obviously, would be become a member at timcast.com, because it helps us as we expand and get the message out. We're doing a bunch of crazy cultural endeavors. But if you're more interested in the political stuff, don't just give to Trump. Realize that there are state level people. If Republicans win the state legislatures in every state, it's a done deal. It's a done game. You don't need to worry about the federal level stuff if you win at every state level. That's the mission. And that means going into urban centers and pushing your views, even when you think no one's going to agree with you. They might. They probably will. You got to do it.
Look at Lavern.
There you go.
She's doing it right here. Donate to her.
There you go.
Tell them, Lavern, your website.
Yes.
I mean, really, we gotta support candidates like you.
Yeah, that's Lavern Spicer 2024.
Nope, just Lavern2024.com.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's a better one.
Got it.
Yeah,
That's good.
Easier.
She's busy being on the ground. She doesn't know her own
She
website.
doesn't. If you're a good candidate, you don't pay attention to those things. You pay attention to the people.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Nick Lee says, in regard to Republican chances, I'm an independent living in PA, and every other ad I see is Democratic campaign ad for positions down the ballot, not one from Republicans. Yup. I will say, however, I went to Pittsburgh, and I have never been recognized in any other city more than I was in Pittsburgh, and it was kind of weird. We went to a hotel, and the hotel, all three of the hotel valets recognized me. We went to Rivers Casino to hang out, and I got recognized by the woman running the poker room and several of the players in the poker room. Walking down the street, someone waved. I was just like, wow, it's kind of crazy. Like, I go to a bunch of other cities and, here and there, but in Pittsburgh, it was like everybody knew I was. And I wonder if it's because of like Midwest sensibilities. For Rust Belt, I'm from Chicago. But I did notice, this is really funny, we were at the Pittsburgh University or whatever it's called.
University of Pittsburgh, I think.
There you go. And on this green Transformer box, I took a picture of it. It was like Brandon Tatum and James O'Keefe are coming in, they're fascists or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Don't let them come. And the argument against them was just like the stupidest thing ever. It was like James O'Keefe makes things up. And I'm like, why would a college student care that a guy makes things up on the internet?
I mean,
it's like, oh, we have to protest because we think a guy made something up on the internet. Who cares?
yeah,
It's too
I don't think they think too
non-specific.
far.
Is he making up the videos? Is he hiring? Like, really?
Well, that's
These
their
people-
that's their argument. But the
They're so
point is,
stupid.
if you don't know who James O'Keefe is,
Yeah.
what about would you like to protest a guy who made something up on the internet is appealing to you? You'd be
Yeah.
like, what?
They have
Like,
no lives. They
Everybody
have nothing better to do.
Everybody makes things up on the internet.
I was gonna say that's half of their dream career is to be like YouTubers who make stuff up and get involved in all kinds of drama.
I'd imagine.
I've heard Pittsburgh's an amazing city. I've been secretly lobbying for a show there for a little while, so I've never been though. So
All right. DeBronx says the 14th Amendment also details the oath support the Constitution. That is not the presidential oath. Yeah, but it is. Come on. It says, what does it say? To serve, protect, and defend the Constitution. So now it's just getting semantics, but let's presidential oath of office. The ability to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So if that's not support for the Constitution, I don't know what is, But there's an argument there that president is not included in that. And I think that actually makes sense. The argument I would make is that in 1876, they did have Southerners, Southern states run. Democrats
Right.
were running for office. They were holding office. And so the idea was they were basically saying, okay, like no one who did at that point, but these positions are probably fine. If they did not allow one of these states to have a president, these people were all alive and involved in the Civil War, then it would have just led to more Civil War. That was the point of 1876. So I think that might be why they say yes to the presidency, but I don't know for sure. I don't know. All right. Raybert G. Stanbert Jr. says, PBD was my favorite podcast before my brother showed me this one. Now y'all are tied in my heart. Was so awesome seeing y'all start to collab. We're big fans. He's fantastic. He stole the show when he came to Miami. Well, he's from Miami. Well, he lives there. But when he gave that speech about tolerant Christians and like what you have to do, like you got to stand. Everyone just stood up, started clapping and cheering, and I was like, okay, like what do we say now? He nailed it. But that's the point. That's why I say share the show. Word of mouth is the most powerful way podcasts grow. That's it. People are always wondering, like, how do I get a big podcast? And it's like word of mouth. Someone plays a podcast in their car while their friend listens to it. They like it and they share it. Someone else says, hey, you should check out this podcast. It's really good. That's it. Commercials don't do anything. None of that. All word of mouth. That's why Twitter/X is so prominent and so powerful. Maybe we should actually try to promote our shows on that. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Or, if everybody who watched the show shared it with their friends, we'd be the biggest show in the world.
Yeah, easily.
There you go. But I will also add too that it's fairly obvious that the large portion of our viewers are fairly moderate-leaning individuals, and most of you would probably agree. Like we had one individual saying they were independent. That tends to be what we find as well, and that's also going to be interesting too. We're getting some more interest. I think it's interesting that Cenk Uygur wanted to come on the Culture War. We've got some other Democrat personalities now reaching out to us, and I think it's because they know that this show is not a hardcore, diehard, far-right MAGA, super conservative show. It's like kind of moderate with crazy characters like Ian. And actually the example of Pittsburgh is interesting because Pittsburgh is what everybody wants to win, right? The Democrat strongholds, sure, but if you get places like Pittsburgh, if you get more rural, suburban areas, Midwestern, PA especially, just across the board, Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, this is what all of the politicians are desperately trying to win, Midwest.
Yeah.
So if people in Pittsburgh know who I am and they're watching the show at higher rates than other places, we're going to have every Democrat in the world begging to come on and try and pitch their case, and they're going to get roasted.
It also means that the power centers are shifting right instead of left,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
is good.
I mean, that was Matt Gaetz' feedback after the second time he came on, because the first time he came out here and then he heckled us when he came to Congress and was like, oh, you'll come out to Lauren Boebert's office, but I have to drive. But he said, I was amazed by how many just regular people, waitresses, truck drivers, random people I met were like, I heard you on Timcast.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that's one of the strengths of the show, that real people listen to it.
Boomers.
Boomers. Well, it was a lot of young people.
No, I'm saying boomers don't realize.
Oh, right. Tinky Winky 31 says, don't know how much hockey you Yanks watch, but in the 24 years I've played, that's one of the most bizarre plays I've seen. The way in which the back checker reacts makes it hard to give him the benefit of the doubt. Check out the Clint Malarchuk injury. We watched it before the show, and I used to play street hockey when I was a kid with my friends. Like, that was our sport. We didn't play basketball or baseball. We played street hockey, and we played kind of a lot. No one ever got kicked with a rollerblade.
No.
In the face.
Yeah.
It's just like, and then all my friends who even rollerblade now, and we have rollerblades, and I was rollerblading last year, it's just like, foot never goes up like that.
Why would it? It would throw your balance all the way off, right?
He's trying to kick them.
I mean, it
And your
has to be
skates are
insane.
heavy. I mean, like, you have to want them to go up. They otherwise would naturally come down.
Unless you're a figure skater, but he's definitely not. He's playing hockey.
No. And if the way he's direction he's turning his skates, he'd be leaning in towards the left, and his left leg is the one that's going up. So it's just like, yeah.
Let's grab some more super chats. Johnny FT says the only solution to the A problem is a return to analog. Pictures and video will need to be accompanied by the original celluloid.
Well,
Sure.
yeah.
I don't know, man.
It's hard to decide.
Welcome to the Matrix. You're going to live in the Matrix. That's it.
Thanks, I hate it here.
Lars says, just a heads up, the U.S. is halting exports of small arms for 90 days, as per the Epic Times.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that was from that story was from last week. So hope you're all ready for war. It'll be fun.
I mean,
guess.
all the listeners to Timcast, like unless you're a new listener, you probably already have guns if you were going to get guns. We've been talking about this stuff for ages and ages. So if you're a new listener, I'm sorry to
Go get more.
Yeah, you should.
Exercise your Second Amendment rights today by contacting your local FFL, and that's the advice I'll give everybody. When I first moved to New Jersey, I was trying to figure out how to get a gun, and good luck in New Jersey.
Yeah.
So I went to the police, and the police lied every single time. The police station lied. Everyone I went to told me something different. They said, it's remarkable because I'm pretty sure they're intentionally lying to people. They were like, oh, yeah, you just got to fill out this form. And it's a form. We're like, okay, no, then go online, go to this website and put it in. And I'm like, okay. And then the website doesn't exist. And I was like, what is going on? So finally, I did the simple thing, and I went to a gun store. And I said, what do I got to do? And they slid me a totally different form and said, fill that one out and then bring it to the police station. And I was like, okay. And then, no, I brought it to a specific station where they took a picture of me and then handed me the New Jersey firearms ID card. And then I was able to go buy a gun in New Jersey. So if you need advice on what you want to do, what you need to do, talk to your local federally licensed firearm dealer.
Go to a gun shop. They'll set you straight.
Yeah, gun nuts will.
Yeah. When I moved to Maryland, I called a local shop and I asked them about it, and they were like, here are the rules. Here's what you got to do. And I'm like, cool. Then I called West Virginia, and they were like, come on in. And I was like, yeah. And they were
Freedom.
like, constitutional carry. You got a West Virginia ID, you're all good. You got to do the federal background check. And there you go. When I bought my first gun in New Jersey, it took 3 days.
Wow.
I think it took 5 because of the weekend, but like there's a 3-day period where if the feds don't respond, then so they were just like, okay, you bought it, we'll let you know what they say because you're delayed. And I'm like, okay, this is dumb.
Yeah, it doesn't exist here too.
It's federal,
Yeah,
so it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
But
That's
basically,
Stupid law.
Yep, basically because it's like if you need it, you need it.
Imagine you're a woman, you're getting like a man is coming after you, you need the gun because you're going to get beat the crap out of you, left
Or
the
killed.
house or something, or killed. You got to shoot that man. I mean, come on. And then you got to wait 3 days, you're dead already.
You have to use reasonable force to defend yourself if someone is expressing their intent to kill you.
Of course. Of
Right.
course.
So for me, dealing with a guy trying to break into my house,
Right.
who was a pedophile, and dealing with death threats, the police are like, "Good luck," and they actually told me, "Oh yeah, of course." In New Jersey, they said that if someone breaks into your house, you have to flee, and I'm like,
to flee
"That's New Jersey's law."
in
I
the
said-
United States of America.
And I said,
retreat,
"Where to? Well, flee to where? I'm in my house." And they're like, "Anywhere." And the argument, it's the communist argument. It's quite literally out of the communist playbook.
Wow.
Yeah.
You should flee instead of having to take someone's life because the argument is,
Yeah, okay.
you would rather kill someone than stand outside. And it's like, well, I don't know what's going to happen if I go outside. I don't know if they've got someone waiting outside for me. And so what am I supposed to do? And they're like, if you can get out, you have to get. Maryland is relatively
Prove
similar.
it.
They'll arrest you and charge you the felony and then tell you to prove it.
Unbelievable.
Right. In Maryland, you can't defend yourself outside your home. if someone is threatening you outside your home, you have to flee into your home. And then once you're in your home, if they try breaking in, then you can defend yourself. And then West Virginia is if someone threatens you, you can defend yourself.
Good.
It's a simpler law. It's much easier to remember.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
All that remains manager is he lives in Long Island. He's a Jewish guy, and so obviously he's got family in Israel and stuff. And he started buying guns maybe a couple of years ago or whatever. And now he's like, thank God that I did, because the rigmarole and all of the paperwork that you have to do in New York,
it's crazy.
No,
New York is awful.
It's basically
It
illegal
is
to have a gun.
insane.
Yeah.
So
They
and
make it impossible.
you never know when you're going to need it. So and it's
All
better
right.
to have it and
And
not
Florida
need it.
is stand your ground, so we have the right to protect ourselves there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Johnny F. T says, as a doctor, you can occlude one artery but still have enough blood flow to the brain from the other side.
Right.
Man, that's crazy.
Pretty sure that Malachard case, he literally just reached into his neck and closed the artery. that was
Into.
broke. Yeah.
Stuck his finger in the neck.
Yeah.
Stick a thumb into it.
Yeah.
He was there
That's
the whole
how you-
time in the hospital too.
If
so.
you get it, like if you ever get like gunshot wounds, what they tell you
Stick
to
your
do is
finger
put the tourniquet on first, and then just stuff gauze into the hole
Well,
until the hole's hard.
I watched a video. Right. I watched a video of a guy explaining how to treat a gunshot wound, and he's sticking his thumbs into it.
You got
Just
it.
gauze until he says it becomes hard as a rock.
Yeah, and then you put a bandage over it, and then get him to the hospital. That's what I mean. A blowout kit, like a trauma kit like that. All it is gauze, a bandage to cover it up, and a tourniquet. So and that's the only thing you need to like fix most of your gunshot wounds, unless you have something through the lung where you need a chest seal.
I think everybody should go to one of these like basic survival training things where Luke does the tactical training stuff. I'm like, I'm saying like I did this hostile environment training, which is really hard to get access to because everybody wants to do it and they have limited classes. So it's typically only big corporations and insurance companies schedule these things. But anything like this, I recommend. Why? It's so much fun. It's not like you're there and they're like, listen, someone's gonna. No, it's fun. You're hanging out in the woods and you're basically role playing. Like, so when I did the hostile environment training, they would put you through the scenario and then have you actually be actors in the scenario for the next group of people. So it was just a ton of fun. You go out and it was like, you get to be a villager harassing a journalist. You get to be, a police officer or whatever. It was good fun. I recommend it. And then you guys will learn basic first aid, and your kids should learn these things too. And then one day you'll slip and fall and your kid will save your life.
Yeah, it's important. I have a woofer because I was RAF guide for some years, and I'm surprised at how little people know about basic first aid. It's kind of shocking.
On my Twitter account, on my Twix account, I just retweeted a basic primer of how to treat
nice.
gunshot wounds. So take a look at my Twitter account.
It's crazy. I watched a video about removing arrows, and they would use feathers because the arrows would have the hook on the end,
Barb, yeah.
and they would put the feather over the barb, and then it would, and then both, and then you pull it right out. It's kind of crazy, like these things. If you knew,
Yep.
Well, like you said before, if you took one class and it ever became useful, it's paid for itself tenfold.
For sure.
Yeah,
You have your
absolutely.
life.
Tyrion says carotid artery exsanguination happens in 5 to 15 seconds. Wow. Yep.
It's really fast.
Crazy. That's basically, A Better Future says, Tim, you are right. A little first aid knowledge can save lives. Maybe when Luke comes back, give him 5 minutes per show for first aid PSAs. That's a lot to do, a lot. I think maybe we do like one special upload to the website where we talk about first aid or something.
Yeah.
Or honestly, we just direct you to somebody who's doing that. Like Luke
Yeah.
would put it on his channel or something like that.
I bet there are viewers who already watch stuff like this, like between survivalist accounts and just paramedics who have YouTube channels. I'm sure there's
Man,
first aid
it's
stuff out there.
it's crazy. Okay, like one single sentence could mean the difference between someone living or dying, or someone being paralyzed and not paralyzed. Like I watched a video. It was out of Africa. A dude jumps in front of a car, and what do? After he gets run over, they pick him up and start dragging him away. And I'm like, okay, they're breaking his bones and they're cutting nerves and they're doing all that bad stuff. When I broke my hand, I didn't move it. I just held it. And the doctor said that the way it broke, it was really close to severing a nerve and probably making a portion of my hand permanently numb or paralyzed. Yeah. And like, you got to know these things. Granted, I didn't do anything. I'm just saying my hand broke, and then I was like, it hurts. And then I went to the doctor, and he was like, okay, we got to set this properly because you're really close to severing a nerve. And it was like kind of crazy. Let's grab some more super chats. Federale Actual says, I still can't listen to HCB since I measured and was at 70 inches flat. I was never 5'11".
See, I'm telling you guys, the 5'11" is the default. I don't want to lie and say I'm 6 feet, but I'm also not as tall as I actually want to present. And that's okay. Yeah. There's room in life for all kinds of heights out there.
Yeah, I keep saying I am 6'1". Exactly. Whenever I say I'm 6'1", everyone's like, "Oh, you're like 5'11" or whatever." But it's like, I literally am.
You're like, pull out your tape measure. I'm actually 6'1".
I should start doing that. Why not?
I'm 6'7".
I believe you.
That's true.
Well, you and Barron Trump are the same height. You guys
right.
make eye contact.
I'm a little taller than him. But I'm 6'7" because I told everyone here that I am, and because I'm the boss, they have to agree. That's all that matters.
That's part of our contract. Also, his lifts are crazy. You guys should see them.
There was a good super chat that I want to read before we get too late. And let's see. Where did it go?
That's pretty good.
I don't know. Oh, here we go. Como Shepard says DeSantis could fix a bunch of his image issues if he had said, I identify as 6'2". Yup.
That would have been great.
So
That would have been great answer.
If he was asked, how tall are you, by Patrick Bet-David, and he goes, well, I identify as 6'2",
Yep.
they would have all laughed, and then he would have laughed, but he does not have it.
No, I didn't.
He's like
Takes himself way too seriously.
I mean, maybe not, but he just doesn't know how.
Yeah, I don't know.
You ever meet somebody who tries to joke and the jokes just don't work, and you're like, bro,
Yeah.
you're just being uncomfortable, like you don't have it, you know? Ron should have been the VP. Trump DeSantis ticket would have been unbeatable.
amazing. Would have been amazing.
And then he said no. All right, we'll grab one last one here. We got Winston Alexander says, took me 4 months to get my New Jersey CCW, multiple background checks, high fees, and 4 endorsements from non-family, non-LEOs. Also, police chief interviews. And that's only after the Supreme Court ruling, right? Because when I was there, they were like, nope. They said, in order to get a CCW in New Jersey, you got to be rich or famous. Are you either of those? And I said, actually, I'm both. They're like, okay, you're good. And I was like, wow. You know, and then it was still really difficult, but that was basically the argument. Same thing with Maryland. These states were like, if you're rich and famous, you're allowed to have a gun, but nobody else. And I'm like, okay, well, that's BS. But we're gonna jump over to the members only show and talk about Sean Strickland, UFC, and Bud Light's partnership and the things Sean said. Getting spicy, so smash that like button. Subscribe to this channel. Share the show with your friends. Head over to timcast.com. Click join us. Become a member, and we'll have that members only show on the front page in a few minutes. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Joe, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, my Twitter, if you want to follow me, is Joey Mannarino US.
I'm Lavern Spicer once again. Follow me on Twitter. And also that campaign donation website is Lavern Spicer.
Lavern2024.com.
Okay.
I retweeted Lavern's website, so if you're looking to find
Wonderful.
a link to
Thank
it,
you.
Real simple.
go to
no
my-
E on that Lavern.
Yeah, no
Lavern.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I am Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. You can follow us on Spotify and Apple Music and Amazon and Pandora and YouTube. You know, the internet.
You can ask your Alexa to play it if you have one, which
You
is
can
a
ask
terrible
your-
idea.
You can ask your Alexa to play. You should ask your Alexa to play it. Alexa,
Didn't we-
play All That Remains.
Chris Berman's going to be so mad last time we did this. Okay.
What's your favorite song?
New stuff. Is
Well,
really,
yeah, I mean, that's...
I can't wait to show you guys. I think that if you're into metal and you want to check some All That Remains out, you should go check out 2 Weeks. Check out What If I Was Nothing. Check out This Calling. Those are our
Those are your big hits.
those are the big ones. Those
Yeah.
are the big boys.
I mean, 2 weeks is a masterpiece.
Thank
It's
you.
Very
I
good.
appreciate that.
Alexa, play 2 weeks.
Now it's playing some other, like, Alanis
I'm
Morissette.
sorry.
Who knows?
I don't know how to talk to Alexa because I avoid her at all costs.
You say this. You say, Alexa, play 2 Weeks by All That Remains. That's how you would do it.
Thank you for
If
teaching
anyone's
me,
if
Tim Pool.
anyone's Alexa actually started because of that, please tweet at me so I know 'cause I know if that actually worked.
It does. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yes.
I'm Hannah Claire Brimlow. I'm a writer for Timcast.com. You should follow at Timcast News on Twitter and Instagram. It's the best. You can see work for me, Chris Bertman, Cassandra McDonald, all kinds of cool people. If you want to follow me personally, I'm on Instagram at hannahclaire.b and I'm on Twitter at HC Brimlow. Thank you guys so much. And Serge is here.
I am indeed. South Africa's world champs once again, as we rightfully deserve. Go Boks, Boka Boka. That's pretty much all I have to say to you guys. See you in the after show.
We will see you all over at timcast.com in a few minutes. Thanks for hanging out.